So, we're live!
Oh, hello.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Planet Beer TV, the first ever live stream drink along.
This is a whole new world.
Yeah. As you'll see, we're doing this through just the merit of a laptop webcam. So, it doesn't have the same production value as usual, but hey.
Got this snazzy mic, though.
Yeah, hopefully that's working. I mean,
this kind of Darth Vader-esque grill here.
If you can hear us in the world out there, if you're one of the three people that were waiting, drop us a comment or a little fucking chat thing. This is where they're going to be waiting on, they're going to be on their phones, so they can't actually do it, or watching from a TV. I don't know. Anyway, Paul, what the fuck have we been up to since our last podcast? Because I think before we were coming on this, we were having that kind of trepidation of, oh my God, what are we going to talk about? Jason Halliwell's just said we can hear.
Jason.
Awesome. Thank you very much. We were talking about what the hell are we going to talk about for 2 hours? Because I remember when I just posted the thing out earlier, kind of a little itinerary, like loosely on social media, it was saying that we start at 7:30, then 8 o'clock we'll crack putty, then chat for an hour.
Yep.
9 o'clock we have our going home drink.
Well, naively, I think we said we'll treat it like a dinner party. So
Yeah.
Half past 7, people start meandering in, hopefully, and you supply them with a drink.
Yeah.
Virtually, obviously, in this case. We just have a little bit of chit-chat, and then we can get to the sort of main meal about 8 o'clock, where we'll crack putty, which is obviously what we're all here for at the end of the day, I think.
Yes.
But,
What was funny was like my dad messaged me immediately after I'd sent that post out. My dad, no doubt watching right now. Hey, Dad. He went, 2 hours. I hope you've got something to talk about. And I was like, have I kind of overshot it with this?
Yeah.
Is 2 hours maybe a bit too long?
We'll play it by ear. We're learning on the job, aren't we? At the end of the day.
So,
But,
I mean, let's go with our first little opener, which we are drinking here. What have you got us? What have you poured us here?
I was going to say, when you go to a party or you go around someone's house for the purpose of enjoying yourself, merriment, drinking, eating, if you don't have a drink within your hands within the first 2 minutes, to me, that party's failed already. Done. I don't want to talk. Get the drink in my hand, and then we'll start conversing, right? I mean, might just be me, obviously.
I mean, that happened when I came to the house. So I was like, right, bought my laptop, and immediately he gave me a drink. Now, what was it? Pressure drop we're drinking.
The first drink we had, actually, was... that's a very good question. I think we had a full circle Pilsner. Actually, we didn't, because it was only a small can, and it was me, Chris, and my wife, Hannah, who's walking around being our beer pourer for the evening, hopefully. Oh, no, she's gone. We lost her. We didn't have enough beer, really, to supply everyone a decent drink. So you and Hannah shared the Pilsner, and I had a beer Moretti, because I'm a massive slag. But
isn't that just like a cheap beer Moretti? That from?
No, it was a proper beer Moretti.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Not one of the cheap Aldi knockoffs.
Wow. Yeah.
Anyway, but then we moved on to a Nothing Bound.
Nothing Bound.
So,
great brewery.
As some people will probably know, we love Nothing Bound. I think they're awesome. And then we're now drinking a Pressure Drop. Woo-hoo. The can's all the way over there, unfortunately. But it's one of their new lines. So it's one of their new lines of New England Pales.
Information age.
Yeah, it's over there. There it is. Next to the stuffed crust pizza box.
Here we are. What we got starting here with Fuzz by Baron. Oh, there he is. There's my dad. Told you he'd be watching.
Hello, Ian.
Very encouraging. Baron, great brewery.
We like Baron as well, don't we? But yeah, so we've got a 4.8 New England Pale from Pressure Drop, which I think this is a Vista hop, isn't it? One of those new hops you've heard so much about.
I've never heard of Vista before.
I've heard of it. I'm just not convinced I've ever drank it. I'm not really sure it's singing in any way, shape, or form outside of the normal hop norms you have in this kind of beer.
No, probably not.
So what's everyone else drinking apart from Ian, who's drinking a Fuzz by
Baron,
the wonderful Baron? Out of interest, before I forget, if anyone doesn't know this, Baron, one of our favourite IPA and pale brewers in the country,
and person in beer. I love him as a person.
He's a wonderful human, Jack Baron. He's released his first tipper, and it's gone live today, or maybe it was yesterday, in his tap room. But the cans are going out on Monday.
Is this the in excess. It's
So-
like the Project Excess, which I think they're doing with
Excess. Yeah.
Pastore and
Two Flints.
yes, there you go.
So they're doing big, silly beers basically. So Barron's never done a tipper, so it's their first release of a tipper. That's on their web store on Monday. I'm not sure what time it goes live, but that'll be well worth getting. I'm going to get a bunch of that.
Yeah,
because if their dipper was anything to go by, the Knitted Baby, that's going to be outstanding.
This also ties in with kind of what he said he wanted to do. Like he had that little tiny tank in the corner that we call Bum Egg. And he said,
I'm not sure he's called it Bum Egg, but we've called it
no.
Bum
Well,
Egg.
he's humouring us, I think,
Yeah,
isn't
yeah.
he? He's making out that maybe it is Bum Egg, but it's probably not. Probably never mentions that. But he did say when we spoke to him on the Christmas video that we did, he said that his plans for this year would be to do some silly stuff in the small tank,
Experimental, big, silly stuff. Yeah,
and clearly he means business because he's starting with the old Project Excess tipper. So I can't wait for that.
Yeah, and Pastore doing something silly, and I forget what it is. I think it's like a custard and cream something or other. Chips are ready, everyone.
Chips are ready. I don't want chips.
And Two Flints. I'm not sure what they're doing actually. I forgot to look on their Instagram, but yeah, it'll be something good, I'm sure. So they were well worth getting.
So I suppose the next kind of little milestone to look at is where we were last year in terms of putty. So I think more or less this time last year, we just released our drink along video then, which wasn't shot live. It was kind of shot as live. It was a little drink along that we did because we didn't feel comfortable.
We were certainly live.
Yeah, we were drinking it live. Yeah, but that was on like a Thursday evening, and then I ended up staying up till about 2:00 in the morning, kind of cutting it together. Then I'd work the next day, and I was like trying to sneak in my lunch break and in between, just trying to get it across the line.
Lunch break putty edits.
Yes, that went really well, and I think that was one of the reasons why we decided that this would be something that we're going to do this year, because being completely honest, all the Verdant videos have absolutely landed really nicely for us. And we obviously started off with our favourite brewery in that respect. It's like, or at least my favourite brewery.
Don't drag me down to that level.
I suppose. But that's kind of where the channel started getting its impetus. That's where we started to really push on, and people kind of heard about us from that. And at that point, I was kind of like, no, we've done Verdant. What do we do next? And I don't think necessarily, and new to the YouTube game, so we're always trying to find out what works, what doesn't work, keeping our eyes on the metrics and whatnot. Or at least I am. I don't know what you're doing. Probably not that.
Hang around with the ladies.
Yeah. All our fangirls. Yeah. But no, so one of the things that we realised is that just, the Verdant stuff really landed. And after a year, those public watch hours, because we're not monetized or anything, after a year, those hours start to drop off. They degrade. Hello, Rasco. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Roscoe.
We're just talking about the Verdant thing that we did last year. So we did the 3 videos last year, and then after a year, those hours start to kind of like degrade and go away. So at the moment, we're kind of facing...
You get punished by YouTube for not doing constant content, basically. So it's like this grind. You have to put stuff out constantly. You have to do it. Otherwise, your hours start to drop off.
You get your first year free, basically.
Yeah.
But then after the 365 days...
Our first year was kind of not really doing much. It was a bit finding our feet, really. Anyway.
Absolutely, yeah. So we're kind of facing attrition in that respect. Like those hours are like chipping off. So whatever we're kind of making in the meantime kind of puts a little sticking plaster on the hole. But I realised that, you know what, the putty one landed so well last year, like 1,000+ views. Open that can. I can see you trying to do it. We may as well do something. But by the same token, we didn't want to do something that was exactly the same as what we did last year, which is just a drink along video that was pre-recorded. And we thought, well, we've not done a live drink along, so let's go for it.
Let's give it a go. Yeah.
And that's how we ended up doing this.
And what better time to do it than putty?
Yeah, which I think is one of those things where it can unify people, but at the same time, it has its detractors.
We'll get into it. We'll get into putty land, I think. I think there's a lot of people according to our YouTube and our Instagram, and I think just anecdotally as well, people we know. Let's dig down into what people like and dislike about it, because I think it's a double-edged sword, really, the Putty release for a few people. It's difficult in trying to read things coming through.
I'm okay because my eyes aren't too bad.
Mine's terrible. Yeah. These are not for show.
John Saxon says, Putty sells out before you can blink. Sold out everywhere. I've tried to buy one. I mean, yeah.
Oh, really?
The hype is absolutely real when it comes to that. But I think a lot of it just ends up being, it's almost FOMO. Yeah. It's like, even if you just went in, not intending to buy one, and I've seen people do this. This is definitely something that happens on Putty Day, the first pour day. You'll have people going in and they're like, I mean, it's good, but I don't get the hype. I'm not going to have one. And then they've got the little order there and they see other people ordering them. And they're like, how many cans you got? 4 left. I'm going to reach in and grab one. Yeah, I'll give it a go. Yeah. I mean, it's a natural thing. It's just the FOMO aspect of it.
Yeah. And, we'll talk about it later when we actually crack Putty, because I think it's a big conversation on beer as well, because it speaks a lot to not just about brewing and good quality beer, but it is definitely a conversation around hype beers in general, the good, the bad, in terms of what it supplies to the industry, how it affects consumers, how it affects retailers, how it affects the brewers themselves, and that plays out into a bigger world now of people and breweries doing their own hype beers and what that entails. So I think there's a bit of conversation to be had. Absolutely. And I think an 8% dipper is the fuel we need to get that conversation moving quite quickly.
There's your lube.
There's your convo lube.
So while we pour out this next beer, Blazed Out London, or LDN, I'm assuming that's London. Hey, I just picked up 4 cans earlier. I've only tried the Putty Tipper last year.
Yeah, but different drink completely in my eyes. Obviously, it's not completely, but different sensation, I think.
Divisive as well at the time, I think, because obviously no one saw it coming, but it came, and then I think you get the people saying that it was kind of unnecessary, and it's nothing. You get people judging it against the hype that Putty gets, and I think I get it. I see why you would do that.
But if you're going to brand something Putty, that's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So again, I think that's a conversation point we can have.
I remember it coming out around the same time as a track tipper.
Yes.
I think that was a gold top track tipper.
But while I'm pouring this, by the way, this is Pressure Drop. I think this reverses it on YouTube, doesn't it? So you're probably looking at this back to front, but this is Fine Forest.
I don't know. I think they might be seeing that the right way.
It's like a mirror.
It could just be us seeing it that way around.
4.8% anyway. So this is, I think they're doing some experimental hops, because the last press drop we just had there had Vista in it. And this has got HBC 586, so not even named.
Very.
This could be interesting anyway. So anyway, so what are you guys drinking? Don't open your putties yet. Well, you can obviously. There's nothing we can do about it.
Some people have been drinking them since 5 o'clock. I know I would have done if I wasn't doing this.
Now, I did pop in to our local earlier after the gym.
Recovery shake.
To get my recovery shake, to get some cans for this evening, and I did have a quick snifter of it on draft as well. So I've got a good idea about what it's all about today. But again, we're having it in can, aren't we? So
we are, yes.
Different thing.
I mean, it's one of those where I think it's definitely going to sell. I mean, as John points out, it will sell out, and obviously Hop Vault, our nearest first pour venue, that one almost certainly will sell out. I mean, the last 2 years that they've done it, 2 years, they've sold out of the stuff on their 20-litre keg or whatever it is on the first evening or first day. So,
well, he's calling it Putty Saturday. So,
so maybe they've bought more this time. I don't know.
Yeah, I think tomorrow's going to be mental for them. But again, that's going to tie into what we're going to talk about how Putty hopefully influences bottle shops and tap rooms in a positive manner. Yeah,
I mean, this time last year we were looking at this in a very different way, in that you had Hall open, so Hall was your bottle shop, and Rasco here actually. That was going to be the next comment that I came to. Still have my putty from last year. That reminds me of where we. So last year on our putty drink along, totally get where get what you're doing here, Asker. Yeah, we had. I kept a can just to see how it kind of went, because I knew that with the channel coming up, with doing the channel, I knew that I wanted to do something to do with putty, and I wanted to compare fresh putty with year-old putty.
Year-old putty.
And it's not worth doing.
No. In fact, it's fucking rank. I'll be honest with you. It was like concentrated squash, wasn't it? That I don't know how to describe it. And it almost had like a little bit of seaweed in it, but then sort of bungalow more sugar in it. It was horrible. It was horrible.
Cam's here.
Hello, Cam.
Cam, big-eyed worldwide.
We also got John Taylor.
Here he is.
Hey, John. It looks like Rasco and
Paul's Beer Reviews.
Paul's Beer Reviews are acquaintances, which is good. Good. We got people coming
That's
in.
It. Keep the chat going, guys. Even if you're just chatting amongst yourselves, you don't have to constantly listen to us. Yeah,
I mean, absolutely not. So I think let's give it sort of 5-10 minutes. We'll shoot the breeze a little bit. See what everyone's drinking. John Taylor's drinking, should I say? Evening drinking. Oh, track. Sorry, I thought it was called evening drinking. So it's track, and that's a Get Low. So that's the Citra and that HBC 586. Everyone's the same hop.
Everyone's at it at the moment. The experimental hops.
Yeah. Well, this must be coming back round again. So that happens, doesn't it? You see it come into the country. You get a sort of flurry of breweries releasing beers with these unusual or lesser known hops in all of a sudden, and then they disappear.
So Cam's on the blackcurrant cordial with soda.
Oh, Cam.
Which, to be fair, that's not a bad shout for a drink. If you know that you're working or whatever, and you don't have an alcohol-free option, that's good, because there are a lot of good alcohol-free options out there.
Now you make me feel bad because Cam, like you discussed, because he's not drinking.
Anything with soda is my go-to, like as in sparkling water is my go-to kind of thing to have. That just if I'm totally staying off the beer, that's my jam.
Yeah, mine's bed.
Yeah, you just, I mean, you can just live without it. What we've got here, John Saxon had a couple earlier, Cloudwater IPA, Left-Handed Giant IPA, and now drinking a local to me called Tinhead.
Oh,
Tinhead Brewery.
Where are you based, John?
So let us know where you're based.
That rings a bell, Tinhead.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't ring a bell to me, but you probably know a lot more considering you had a beer shop. So.
No, I think I've just heard the words tin and head. And that's what it is.
But yeah, the other thing about the putty tipper, sorry, to go back onto the putty tipper, was that I remember it being not quite, it wasn't sweet. They'd made a tipper that wasn't overly sweet, which for me totally worked, because I'm like, you know what, sometimes a tipper is one of the most imbalanced styles, because they're hitting the higher marks, the 11-12%, and you will be getting like just really sweet.
Yeah, I think if anyone's heard me rant about tippers before, the rant is usually not positive. I just don't enjoy a lot of tippers. Don't get me wrong, there's been sensational beers from great breweries, but in general, tipper as a style just doesn't appeal to me. It's the overly sweet, and dare I say, it's aiming to be quite American.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that I actually reckon that the tipper style of beer is actually something that the UK actually do better than the American.
It's getting loads better, and that's what I'm saying. I think some of the best tippers I've had have been by the sort of lesser known breweries, or perhaps breweries that don't get the pundits or the plaudits from most circles. So things like Pentridge did a tipper.
Yes, that was really good.
King knockout.
Couple of shout outs. Last beer. Cheers from the States.
Hey, man.
Hello.
Hey, man. International.
Yeah. Whereabouts are you listening from? I love America.
You're in Milwaukee. If you are, grab Mash Gang for us, because he's knocking around there, and he won't reply to our emails, will he? So, yeah.
To be fair, I think it's. I can't remember who it is from Mash Gang that we're talking to. We're talking to Michael.
Oh, is it Michael? Okay.
I think it's Jordan that's over in Milwaukee. So a little bit of a kind of tease for what we've got coming up. We're in discussions at the moment with Mash Gang. We're hopefully getting those guys on the channel to talk about basically the fact that an alcohol beer is for life. not just for January or something. I don't know what's the angle. It's got to be something.
I
It's got to
don't
be
know.
decent.
But all I know is if anyone's going to smash this
AF beer.
low and no alcohol market, it's Mash Gang, because they're alchemists, man. You know,
And we've got
wonderful stuff.
KW. Cheers from Belgium. Drinking
Hey, man.
Saint Gilloise Lambic.
Gilloise Lambic.
Either way, Lambic.
I love a good lambic. We've got quite a few knocking around in the cellarette over there, so I'm looking forward to maybe having one as a wrapper-upper tonight.
So last beers from Virginia, outside of Washington DC. Yeah, in the Nerve Center. John Taylor, heard they're doing the tipper again this year. Why not drop it down and try an IPA and powder? Now that is an absolutely great idea. I think, especially given what's going on with higher beers being now more expensive in the UK. They should try and do what they did with Gus, Don't Tell Gus, and do like a baby version of Tipper. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Like, scale it back down to an IPA. And maybe then, if they wanted to be really bold, try and do it as a pale. But I think even just an IPA would work quite nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that would be, especially knowing what they've done with Don't Tell It, or Gus Knows, as it's called.
Yeah. The thing about Putty as well is it always obscures a lot of other releases from Verdant themselves. It's weird. It's because they release some amazing beers around the same time. And I always say this every year. 40 Watt Moon I prefer it.
Lean in. It's like you're on the edge of frame.
So, yeah, I think Verdant can be a victim of their own success sometimes because they do so many great beers. This whole Putty thing, as great as it is, they kind of they kind of hinder some progress from their own beers, which some people, not saying who, prefer really.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting. But anyway, what I'm thinking here is, as I say, for anyone's missed it, we're drinking this pressure drop with a new hop, which is HBC 586. That's really interesting.
There's something going on there,
It's
especially
something
just
going
like
on, isn't it?
a single hop one of that.
Yeah, it's a single hop. That's a good shout. It's a single hop beer, but I'm getting like extreme horse blanket vibes. But it's also, there's a load of
Horse blanket mixed with the Verdant melon.
Yeah, but there's
Unless
also a
I'm
load of
just
orange
thinking about
juice.
Verdant so much that
well,
it's just
you always do that.
leaking into my.
You always do.
Yeah.
I think John Taylor was drinking a track with the same hop in. What are you getting from that, John?
In the meantime, last beer says I had a small Cloudwater drop at one of my bottles hops beers with dusk happy gossip in the grain.
Okay.
Jesus. Fair play. That's some American stuff, I think, that I've perhaps not heard of.
Yeah, Cloudwater are pretty good at that stuff, aren't they? I just want to point out that you said your eyes are excellent.
Yeah, I mean,
that was worse than I am. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I think it's time to perhaps load the putty cannon.
Yeah, let's do
I
this.
think we can do that. We're coming to the end of this. So, yeah, if you haven't got your cans of putty at the ready, if you are joining us on the deep dive, then go get them now. In the meantime, we'll just catch up with a couple of shout-outs. Mr. Flying Guy, regular comments, actually. I do see him pop up on the comments.
Yes, hi.
Hey, man. Evening, chaps. Drinking a mash gang and Wylam.
There
Never
we go.
say never AF, and it's bloody tremendous with use of Superdelic hops. Superdelic hops. We've got a video that we recorded on that, like in the Hops in Focus vein, the series of beers that we're doing.
Yeah.
We've covered off Idaho 7 and Superdelic, so they'll be released in the coming weeks once I've edited them.
Yeah, we've just done a bit about Superdelic in particular, and interestingly, we've had two pretty poor experiences with Superdelic, I think, from breweries we trust implicitly and always do amazing beers. And then we've had one which is pretty good. I'm not convinced about Superdelic as a hop, but I'm glad it's working alcohol free though, because I can see why it would. Yeah, I can see why it would. Yeah. Superdelic has got a very powerful, punchy flavour. It's big. It's kind of, I guess, sort of American candy. It's bubblegum, that kind of
I think
thing going on. But you weren't getting that, were you?
I was mostly just getting it tasted like a bit washing up liquidy, a bit kind of Jif lemon. You know,
I've had that in other Superdelic beers, but I didn't get it in the one
In
we
that
were
one,
drinking the other night, which was interesting. So maybe it's a bit of like a coriander thing. You know, you get like a chemical reaction to the taste of it. You know,
yeah, because that's supposed to be a thing, isn't it? That
Yeah.
coriander.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like some people can taste
soap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't.
I'm not saying I'm not a doctor or a food scientist.
Don't refer me. Hugo, cheers from Bristol.
Hey, man.
Belcher Brews here, kicking off a brew day or brew night. Wow, fair play for a West Coast IPA. Listen to you guys while I get ready. Awesome, Hugo. Thank you for checking in on us and stuff. West Coast IPA, absolutely a style that a lot of people, like John Taylor, who's listening now, are not into it.
I fucking love West Coast IPA. When they're done well, they're, dare I say, probably my favourite style.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably what's happened with them as well is they've moved from what would have been like a punk IPA style of bitterness. When punk IPA first came out, that was like the one that was really a demonstrator of that style to the UK audience at the very least, outside of your Sierra Nevadas or whatever. But yeah, as time's gone on, I feel that the West Coast IPA has been kind of reinterpreted and reimagined. So
for English audiences, I think you're absolutely right.
I mean, even Verdant, they've done their Big Stupid Westie in 2 iterations now, and I think both of those times I thought it was a fantastic beer, especially in the sense that it's got that kind of dry bitterness to it, but then there's also a nice bit of fruitiness which you'd know from Verdant. But I still don't think it's ever like a true West Coast IPA as you would have defined it.
Yeah.
As Elusive do, for instance. Like Elusive's Oregon Trail is
yeah, absolutely.
Love that.
And we had last year, I think it was last year, it would have been, we got a can of Green Cheek.
Yes.
And I can't remember the name of it, but it was a classic West Coast IPA from our American brothers, and it was just the best thing, man. It was just the tonic to, the hazy boy thing that happens constantly around by us. So yeah, it was fantastic.
I say, Mr. Flying Guy flags up that Nectaron's the golden boy, the golden child.
Seems to be, doesn't it?
Yeah. We're hoping to do a feature with Glasshouse.
Glasshouse, yeah.
We're talking to those guys at the moment. They've got the accolade for being the biggest user of Nectaron hops outside of New Zealand.
Yeah,
and so apparently they're almost the drug dealer for Nectaron in this country.
Well, they are from Birmingham.
Yeah. Apparently your Verdants and your Cloudwaters and your Deas, they end up, because they can't get hold of Nectaron in the volumes that they need to make a batch. So the supplier of Nectaron won't give them all that, because Verdant or whatever just be like, yep, we'll just take it all because we'll make all that into a beer. So it needs to get spread around, and Glasshouse have obviously got a good relationship with the supplier. So what actually happens is you get these other breweries, these bigger breweries going to Glasshouse, right? I suppose you can sling us a 20 bag of Nectaron
on street corners. Right out the window of the car.
We'll take an ounce.
Yeah, we'll take a bag. We'll take a bag. Yeah. But Glasshouse are fantastic. So I'm sure there's a few people on here from the area.
Bramall Backroom Brewery. Evening, chaps. Not got the putty yet, but hoping my bottle shop has it soon. I'm guessing it's going to be near £10 a single can. This is something that we're going to come to. Hold that thought. Because the cost element of it is something which is we talked about last year in our video, and we can talk about
it's one of the
year.
factors for sure. Yeah.
Last beer, I picked up a Tipper Collab beer called 3x3 Equilibrium Green Cheek Omnipollo.
Green Cheek, there we go.
Oh my god, that sounds insane. Shit. I hope you're drinking that now, because that sounds incredible, and that's a good replacement for Putty, which you're probably not getting over in the States.
Yeah, but I think those breweries there though, Equilibrium, Omnipollo, obviously. Is that Fidens or is it meant to be Fidens?
Fidens.
Yeah, Fidens and WorldWorks. They're getting more and more available in this country through various different
Yeah.
importers, which is good. Green Cheek are definitely becoming more prominent. I've seen them pop up quite a few places.
John's got my back on the Superdelic. Superdelic is GIF Central.
Yeah.
However, Gravity Well did a beer with it in, and it was better.
There we go. Yeah.
Better than
Yeah.
And Bramall Backroom Brewery, what would you say is the best UK brewed West Coast IPA? I'm going to say Oregon Trail. I think that is literally...
It feels the
what it
most pure to the original concept of it, I think, yeah. And I think Elusive are just slept on, man. I know they get raised in the right circles. Craft Beer Channel evangelise about them quite a lot. You see them pop up all over the place, but they're very small. And
we emailed them last year.
Yeah.
I think I messaged them on Twitter. I'm never going to call it X.
Apparently, he's one of the nicest people on the planet, not just in craft beer, literally on the planet. So
that's pretty nice.
God, that's nice.
Right then, it's drink up your beer, drink up your vitamins.
Yes,
it's putty time.
We've got some fresh glasses for that. So
have we? Okay, great. Oh, you didn't have to drink that then.
Don't worry.
Little palate cleanser.
It's Friday. Right. So
right here. I mean, did you do your enema?
What?
Did you do your enema? I like to be pure for the first pour of
it's
putty.
like scraping your skin.
I need to make sure that I've got nothing in my system other than the stuff that I've just put before it.
Like Danny DeVito in It's Always Sunny when he's greased himself up and makes himself
That's
pure.
There you go.
There's a reference. Right. It's Putty Time. So,
I like the can artwork this year. It's very nice.
Yep, another variation of the can artwork. I'm sure you've seen this to death on social media over the past few days. It's been promoted by
Reminds
everybody.
me of marshmallow intestines.
Everything does, though.
Yeah.
We've always said that, though. Haven't we? So, for those who haven't got the fortune of having a can in front of them,
stop showing off. Absolutely. Last beer. It's like that bloody beer he talked about. Sorry, carry on with the putty.
No, it's all right.
We've got to try and overshadow whatever that is that he's just got over there.
I know.
What a beer.
Yeah, I know. I'm just... Fuck this. It's not worth it.
Let's go to Virginia.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, if you haven't got a can in front of you, putty, as we all know, is a dipper, 8%, and it's Azaka, Galaxy, and Mosaic.
And it is the same recipe as it has always been since it was first made in 2017 for Hop City.
So
that's what it was originally made for.
Every year, we pour this hype beer, and it is a hype beer.
Please pour it.
And Chris has a full body orgasm, which is interesting to see. Now, I've had this on draft today, as I mentioned earlier. So I've had a little bit of a sneak peek, but it's always different in can, as we know.
What's your views on can versus keg? Because my opinion really is that I prefer...
In a fight, I think keg would win every day.
But I prefer can. And I think it's more the sense that you get the aroma with it as well. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the fact that as soon as you've cracked it,
there's a
pouring in, you've got way more aroma.
Yeah, I've had beers, and I'm sure we all have, that, clearly brewed that we had on draft, which just hit better in can. But it's location, it's situation, it's who you're with. I mean, it's all that. Anyway, yeah.
Look at that.
There's the colour.
There's your pillowy soft body.
Oh dear. Oh dear. You're sexualising it already.
Right, yeah. So it's 4 minutes past.
Just off camera over there is Hannah, and my wife, who's got a can to herself, by the way. So laughing her head off as she smashes that back. So she seems to be enjoying it.
I mean, it's just one of those. It does to us. I know I said the same thing last year. It's familiar. It's like
it's familiar.
It's bumping into an old friend at the bar.
Now I will say, the body and the look of that is 1,000 times more appealing to what it was on draft.
Really?
Yeah. I think it was last year and the time before that, to be honest with you. It's just, the head retention is just, brilliant.
Mine's still going. Yeah. Is it ever going to stop having a head? I don't know. Let's anyway. Cheers, guys. Thank you for joining us on our first drink along.
Cheers,
so let's go. Cheers, boys. Enjoy whatever it is that you're drinking.
And hopefully, girls, who we got?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
First impulse is it's green as fuck.
Yeah, a bit of hot burn. But I think that you get that with all Verdant beers, really.
But that is green.
I mean, if you're drinking it tonight, when was yours? When was yours canned? In fact, this one's actually canned quite the 15th. So, considering last year when we had it, it was like canned the day before we received it.
Yeah.
So,
but it's green, but it's pretty mellow at the same time. So you get that initial hot burn thing going on, but then that's immediately gone, and then you're into the putty that we all know and love. Really, for the record, I don't mind greenness. Sometimes I quite enjoy it.
Well, I think as well, I go back to when I used to, because I first got into craft beer, really. I mean, I was always a real ale man, drinking my cask and stuff. But I first got into the keg stuff and the cans over lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
That was when I couldn't go into a pub and drink my real ale. And obviously you also opened up Hall at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of loosely knew you from work at the time. So
we don't talk about that.
We don't talk about that. It's ancient history. But yeah, I remember having that and having those beers and having all these different craft beers and enjoying it. But then when I had the Verdant ones, it just felt to me like they were just a cut above. Whatever I was kind of able to get, it felt like they were doing something which was just...
I think, from my point of view, I think a lot of people had this journey in the UK, different conversation in America, but you kind of went from sort of classic cask, or, you came from a more macro world, whatever, but you got into your craft beer world. You might have dabbled in Brewdog, whatever. But when you started drinking what we know as craft beer, it was Beavertown.
Yeah.
Then it was probably something like Cloudwater. Cloudwater for me was hang on. I remember the first Cloudwater, mainly because I remember it being like £5 a can.
Yeah.
Oh my God. This must be something else. And turns out, actually, back then it was. Oh God, £5 a can. Can you imagine now?
That's like just a session fridge.
You struggle to find things below 5 now, won't you?
But I think what it was is when I was ordering.
But then you went on the Verdant, is what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So it's but the Verdant thing, when it hit me, we were all on Untapped, right? I guess. I remember the first beer I gave a 5 to on Untapped was Fruit Car Site Exhibition by Verdant, and it was when it all clicked. I felt that this new world of beer that was sitting in provided something new. And it was that kind of Verdant dankness, and it was that kind of, that horse blanket thing that they're very proud of, and that kind of, that big Verdantiness about it.
Actually,
and it just felt so unique.
I missed a step actually on my craft beer journey.
Did you?
So there was real ale. Then my friend Sam, who now lives in Poland, he got me into Belgian beer.
Ah, yeah. Well,
so Belgian beers, the big strong ones.
To be honest, that was actually for me first before we hit the modern craft scene.
Yeah. So I mean, that sort of beer just really knocked my socks off, because there wouldn't have been a time ever that I would have, other than when I was in my cider drinking days and I was drinking some
cider and black
scrumpy, like that was 7%. I wouldn't really have considered a 7 or 8% beer anything that was worth drinking, because I'm in my head I'm thinking Tennant Super and all your tramp lagers, your big super strength lagers that are really cheap. So it's quite interesting that obviously we've come to this point now where I'm drinking 8% dippers like a hobo, but it's actually really expensive to do.
Yeah. Can you imagine that? The dipper hobo.
Yeah. But the other thing, I think what I was kind of coming to with the Verdant greenness was just the sense that once I started buying those beers, and I was buying direct from Verdant because I had very little else to spend my money on during lockdown, and it was like, well, fuck it, why not? Yeah. So I was ordering the Verdant beers, and they always shipped. And I think one of the things that always took me as a bit of a novelty was, fucking hell, lads, I'm drinking something that was canned yesterday or the day before yesterday. It's like, this is insane. And I'd have it, and it was green and hot burny, but I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know craft beer from Adam at the time. So for me, the green hop burn is something that I came to actually know as the beer style at the time. So for me, this feels like going back in time to that period and reminding me why I fell in love with
it's really sweet.
the style. There, cheers.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting actually, because I think that's probably the closest we're going to get in this country. And I know there are people who do this, but in this country we don't really do cold storage or cold transport like in America. You know, the American beer distribution world, I'm sure it varies from state to state, is fucking sensational. You know, from brewery to supplier, bottle shop, whatever.
Yeah.
Is absolutely banging, and we don't really have that. There's a couple of people who do it, wholesalers who do it really well. Jolly Good Beer, shouts out to those guys. They have cold storage, cold chain logistics. But it must have been good to know that your beer had been literally canned a day before
And hadn't left the cold chain.
Yeah, and it was suddenly on your doorstep, right? So that's really cool.
We've got our first review in of Putty from Ian. Love the Putty 2024. Canned 16th of Jan, so it's a day younger than ours. Neutral smell, which to be fair, I did get. There wasn't loads on the aroma. Lots of mouthfeel and quite syrupy with more of a slight bitter aftertaste than last year, I think. I agree, a bit green. And then Bramall Backroom Brewery has said, I think the biggest variable with Putty year on year is Galaxy. It seems to be the hop that can change from really stone fruit forward to being really grapefruit.
Yeah.
And that's something which James touched on last year with us.
That's a great shout, actually.
That is a very good shout, because that was one of the things I don't know if Bramall Backroom, if you've seen the videos that we did with Verdant, but when we spoke to James then, he talked about the feistiness of the Galaxy hop. His theory basically that it used to be that Galaxy had your Australia version and you had two different versions of it that they then kind of sold separately. But then he thinks that the two batches
the good
now,
and the bad.
Yeah.
But then they threw them all together. So
the two batches now are just blended together. So you've got your shit Galaxy, your good Galaxy, mix it all together, and then sell it as a uniform Galaxy.
It's just potluck what happened to it.
What they've done is they've McDonaldized it, I guess.
Starbucked it, man.
Or Starbucked it, yeah. That's probably way more of a better equivalent. As a break from the Putty chat, Rasco said, in your opinion, what's the difference between real ale and craft beer? So, I mean, that's one which I was getting quite a lot of from our American audience that watched the Verdant videos, because there's obviously real ale is something that, and cask ale is the stuff that the Brits do. It's our thing. That's what we're good at.
Where are you from, Rasco? Are you from the UK? Because
let's find out.
Because I think that kind of that question hits differently from different people, but that's where they are. Because I think a lot of the time we use it as interchangeable things based on our childhood or our growing up and what we were told by the marketing people of the macro brewers and the traditional brewers, what you're supposed to expect, versus what has now become, I think, more of an easy marketing divide by people who are reviewing beers, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I think it's quite interesting. Okay, well, you know all about it then. So from again, and it's different because we're from the Midlands. Well, I'm from the Black Country. You're from that weird place up
in the middle.
North. Yeah.
Staffordshire, Black Country-ish.
Midlands.
Apparently. Borderlands.
Yeah, the Borderlands. Yeah. But from our point of view, as a boy from the Black Country, is it traditional ale or real ale?
I don't necessarily think it's
what was the question? Hang on, I need to get this right because I might be able to say real ale.
But is it an opinion? Because I mean, real ale is cask ale, surely.
It's an opinion when I was growing up, and it was a very strong opinion. So real ale was a rally against what was becoming the macro brewers at the time. So in the 80s, when the lagers started coming out, your Carlsberg and your Heineken just started dominating everywhere, and it was promoted to buggery by the InBevs of the world, and there really was a rallying cry to say this is not real ale, this is mass-produced crap, quite rightly, and this is where Camera came from. This is the whole resurgence. Well, the birth of CAMRA and the campaign for real ale. So when I was growing up, real ale was anything that wasn't crap macro lager.
Okay, yeah.
So it kind of hits different, I think, to a lot of people.
I mean, for me now, with my kind of understanding of it would be, I'd lump real ale in with essentially cask ale. I mean, I know there's kind of a bit of an outlier with what happens if you bottle it. Does that still mean that it's cask?
But it starts to mean different things, right? That's what I'm saying. I think that's where it came from originally.
It's the real ale is the beer that is, kept in casks, that's not kept at your 4 or 3 degrees. It's kept at your more ambient temperature of 16, is it? Something like that. Yeah. And it pours flat through those big hand pulls. That to me is real ale. If I see that, I think that's what real ale is.
That to you, but I think real ale is craft beer and craft beer is real ale. But from a social marketing point of view, and I don't mean marketing as in businesses are coming up with these phrases, it's what we use to pejoratively say, classic. You walk into a pub, there's someone, with a cask hand pub, real ale. There's a historic meaning behind that, and I think it's kind of reticent. I think we'd be wrong to say there's a difference between those two things because they're the same. They really are. But I think all it means is the kind of new world versus old world of beer brewing.
Yeah, I mean,
distribution.
That's an interesting question.
It's a great question.
I mean, what were you thinking? What's your opinion on that? Because I was thinking, is that like
it'd be quite interesting for someone from London as well, because I always get the opinion that to narrow it down to north, middle, and south, that you're going to have different viewpoints on what these terminologies and these boundaries mean to you.
I used to go down to Croydon a fair bit because Kate used to live down there. Kate's my wife. She used to live down in Croydon.
Yeah, she did. Yeah.
She used to live on the London Road. And for those of you who've seen Peep Show, she lived just down the road from the flats, the exterior of the flats, Zodiac House. It's called, I think in real life, it's called Apollo House in Peep Show. That was the exterior that they used.
Really?
Yeah. And one of the JLB one in season 1, JLB, where Mark works as the main character. That was outside. That was across the road from where she used to work.
I mean, interesting. You never told me that.
Yeah, man. I guess we're still finding out as much about each other as we are about beer.
I'm not hurt. Just disappointed.
What have we got here? So I think John's is reviewing. Really savoury, unmistakably verdant, quite green. 2 more cans. See how it changes. Yeah, I think that's the thing as well. I think
keep one back. Yeah.
Despite what I was saying earlier about the fact that I've just come to know and love the verdant style from being so green and hot burning, I actually think that the sweet spot for them is probably anywhere between the 2 and 6 week mark. I think because I've tested this.
You have.
Yeah. I think it mellows out a lot.
Yeah.
And I think one of the ones, the only beer that they've done, and it was a more recent one, the one that they did with Flock, that was casting the void dipper that they did for the Bruiser box. That for me, like I had it and it was nice, but it wasn't like it was actually better because I had several cans of it. Because Ollie bought a few cans over, and then I got some that came in the Project X box, so I had a little selection of them. And the later can that I had was actually the better one, and it was the one that was furthest away from when it was canned. Yeah. So, but again, I suppose we're talking about this from what do you guys think in terms of how do you judge a beer that you had that's the same recipe as it was last year? It's the same thing, same malt, same yeast, same grist, but it's just made a year later. How do you then compare that in your head? Because I mean, it's an inaccurate science, isn't it? When people say, you see the reviews come in, and it's like, oh, it doesn't taste as good as it did last year, or it didn't taste as good as it did when it first came out in 2017. Like, oh, it's changed. What determines that? I mean, I find that like a really interesting. For me, what I get is I couldn't say whether or not this is the same as last year. Maybe in body, I'd say it's probably a bit more.
I never can
thick, but what I'm trying to say is that I don't really know. All I know is this tastes familiar. I know I've definitely had it before, and for me, it's unmistakably, like John says, Verdant. And I'd say if you were holding a gun to my head and you gave me some beers, I'd be like, it's Putty.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think you're quite good at identifying your standout favourites anyway. To me, I have my palate forgets things pretty quickly. There's an interesting experiment. As I said, the first beer I gave a 5 to on Untapped was Fruit Car Site Exhibition, which is a brilliant dipper by Verdant again. And year one, I gave it 5. When I wasn't particularly craft beer centric, I wasn't really, in the world as such. A few years later, after I've had it year on year, I gave it about 4.5, I think. When I kind of sort of second guessed myself and I thought maybe I was a bit more clued in. And then last year, I gave it a 5 again. So I don't know if that was because the beer was just dipped in quality and came up, or I was trying to overthink it when I was trying to get into this world and put my opinions on what is essentially going to be potentially the same beer recipe wise. But I don't know. It's weird, isn't it? And I think maybe I'll settle back into the fact that I just like really great beer. So I went, you know what? Fuck it. It was a 5.
Yeah.
I don't think it gets any better than this. It's the same thing when we had Heady Topper.
Yeah.
So we if anyone saw it, we managed to get our hands on
US versus UK.
The US versus UK thing. No, it wasn't. Was it? Oh, it was. Yeah. And we did the Heady Topper and Focal Banger.
Oh no, I didn't do Heady Topper.
Oh no, you didn't do that, did you?
Banger.
That was me and Hannah. But we got some.
He likes to remind me.
We got some alchemists
that aren't me.
And I reckon people who drink those beers who can readily get it, which is readily available in the States.
I want more of this.
You can have some in a second. Sniff that. They'd be going, yeah, it's a good beer. But for us, it was, I think, the perfect example of that style of beer.
Yeah.
And we couldn't argue it, we couldn't fault it. So, yeah, it's an interesting thing, man, when you start going, am I overthinking? Or do I just really like this beer?
Yeah. So just Vasco clarified that point. He said essentially you can't get more craft than cask because it's something you treat, handle, and manage. And I think that's a fucking great point.
That's a great shout. Yeah. Craft beer is real.
Oh, and he also interviewed Pete Brown. Shameless plug. Craft beer is a real ale rebrand. Yeah.
Well, yeah. First and foremost, Raska, who you're writing for, and if we've been really naive about this, apologise. But yeah,
that'd be interesting. To see.
Give us your credentials and what you're doing. That sounds really interesting. And secondly, I really agree with that. I think that's what I'm saying. It's the same thing. It's just artisanal craft done well.
Yeah,
just in different eras.
True enough.
And I think the modern craft beer scene leans so heavily on the traditional techniques anyway. It'd be really foolhardy to separate them. I think the only difference is marketing, a different ingredient palette we have now. We have access to worldwide hops, which brings all kinds of nuance and flavour and new styles that we can't ignore really. But I agree with that wholeheartedly, Roscoe. I think that's a great shout. It's a great quote.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, because you do get that, and I've had that with people that I talk with in work or whatever, and I'll talk to them about the channel because I'm constantly self-promoting, and they'll say, "Oh, so what's the difference then between like cask and craft beer?" And there's not there isn't a difference, is there? It's not that it's different. Cask can still be craft, and actually there's a Instagram account that follows us quite and likes a lot of our stuff, and their handle is cask is craft.
Yeah, 100%.
So, and it's like, that's the thing. I think people perhaps misgender then, but that they kind of see cask as different from craft, but it isn't. It's the serving equivalent. It's basically, it's the way it's poured. it's the way it's kept. So it's obviously cask is live.
But we mentioned Glasshouse earlier. Glasshouse are probably, in our perhaps limited opinion, one of the best purveyors of modern cask beer. So the worlds have so combined there, and that means the way they pour it, the way they, the glassware they use, the way they approach the brewing of the beer, it's all there. It's just they just happen to be using slightly different, more modern ingredients, really.
So Rasco has provided his credentials. My name is Rasco of the Rasco and Disco Beer Review on YouTube.
Go on, Rasco, whack it in.
Drop your link in. Let's have a look.
You massive haul.
Yeah. We'll drop you a follow or sub or whatever it is on YouTube.
I love the name, by the way.
Dominic Benson, recently discovered your channel. Really enjoying watching the back catalogue. Thank you so much, dude.
That's lovely. Thank you, mate.
Really appreciate that. It's nice to also know that obviously some of the content that we have isn't just relevant for that time that we do it, because we release one, we move on, and sometimes we don't give ourselves, I suppose, the time to really look back and go, does that video still have any kind of value? Especially when we're interviewing breweries about a specific year or a period of time or a thing. It's
early days, we're still trying to work out what it is we're trying to achieve. All we know is we want to do high production, that is
just fun content as well,
and hopefully a bit of fun. But
Bramall Backroom again. Red Willow are very particular to whom their cask beer goes to, because they want the beer to be looked after and served to taste how they want people to recognise their product. Craft from brew to pour. Now, this is a very prescient point in the sense that this is something that I want to do a little thing on. I wasn't sure whether we were going to do this as a podcast discussion or whether it would be something where maybe, because that video where it was just what's the future of craft beer, and it was me talking to the camera and then uploading that, and it was 13 minutes. That's got like 1,000 views in just over a week.
With that in mind, I'm just going to go and have a bathroom break. So
yes.
Hold the fort.
Yep, go and do that. So the fact that video got over, well, it's got 1,000 views now in about a week or just over a week. That's something that we, or specifically I was always against kind of doing, because I'm very cautious about putting my head above the parapet, so to speak, and having an opinion which could generally perhaps, cause a bit of controversy or a stir and stuff. So it was nice to see that just coming out with that video, I took, like I say, Mark from Hop Vault. If you haven't watched the video, definitely go and check it out. But Mark from Hop Vault, he just provided me with something that was really thought-provoking. And I thought, I want people to hear this, but not just in a way that I'm just posting this up on Instagram or whatever, or boring someone at the pub, at the bar with it. So I just thought I'll do a little response to it. And that actually really took off. And that's something which now says to me, maybe that's something that we should look at doing more of, some of the more thought-provoking kind of discussion-based content, because it was also great to get all the feedback. I mean, there was like 30 odd, nearly 40 comments that came through on that. And it's great just hearing people's views on it. And it really does help shape kind of the content that we're thinking about making. So absolutely do that. And to bring it back around to what I was talking about earlier with the cask thing, that's something which I wanted to talk about. I'm not sure whether it'd be podcast or one of those features, but cask's actually something which I've fallen out of love with since lockdown, because when the pubs all open it, before the lockdown and the closures and stuff in 2020, it would be the only thing that I'd drink. I'd go play darts in a pub and be literally in a Black Country Ales, nonetheless, just going up
with
the
your
bar
bag of scratchings.
with my bag of scratchings, and I'd be just sinking the ale. And now, or after lockdown, it was every time I went to go and have a pint of cask, it was poured or served badly. It tastes like fucking vinegar. And there's only so many times that you can keep doing that to yourself, because it's clearly either A, not being kept right, or it's been kept for too long and people aren't drinking it. So I was literally just walking into a pub and I'd just be looking around thinking, what are people I'm trying to clock what people are drinking. What's the mood in this place? What are the clientele drinking? Is it all just lager? or are the people going in there for the cask? Is this an ale pub? And that would shape my opinion very much of whether, even if I saw something and I was unique chasing for Untapped and seeing something and being like, oh, you know what? I haven't had that one before. I'd just be like, fuck it, I'll have a Guinness. Because I'm just sick to death of drinking vinegar or just piss poor cask. So that's really interesting that you say, was it Red Willow? That's definitely something I should maybe.
But what do you really think? Red Willow are great, by the way. Hugely rated brewery.
Yeah, and I agree with what Masco just said. There's nothing better than a good cask beer.
And I think it's interesting you saying that. And I know it's anecdotal again because the area we're in, but where I'm from and a few people on the chat are from, the quality of beer is almost irrelevant to the quality of the pub because we always knew the beer was going to be good quality.
Yeah.
And I mean that because we're really lucky to have some of the best traditional cask brewers.
It's fine, man. You can say craft
in history, really. So kind of on our doorstep, right? So the quality was always there. Now the problem is when you get the pubs, as you say, who start bringing in the guest ales and have multiple pumps in front of them, and they have no concept about how to store a beer or just to treat it with a bit of dignity. So they're just doing, it's head counting. They're just trying to throw out as much product as possible, and they just don't understand that this thing needs to be nurtured. And it's a living, breathing organism that needs to be.
But I think that's the cultural element that we've got, which actually works against us, because that's the point now where if you're opening up a pub and you want to say, oh, we do real ales, you're getting in, you've got a pub company opening up the pub saying, well, real ale and craft beer's doing really well. Let's put real ale in. They'll be bringing in a landlord that doesn't really know how to do that.
And it's also a box.
But it's just because it's so culturally ingrained in us that, cask is part of the thing that we offer. We offer our flat, lukewarm beer, and people love it. And people don't want to take the responsibility for what that actually entails.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the problem. So in a way, I kind of feel like cask needs to have a bit of a. I realise this is very, very controversial, I'm about to say, but a bit of time in the dark, a bit of time away from it, a bit of out time away from.
It does get the dark. That's
yeah. But away from the mainstream kind of focus, and just let it become a specialist thing, because cask should be specialist. It should be a place that you go to a pub, and it's the only way that you'll ever get it right, because all that you're going to get in these McPubs that pop up, that are also restaurants and that, and they've got their Doom Bar and and whatnot on there, they pour it shit, and every man that goes in who might be tempted to try something that his granddad would drink or something like that, will try that and go, well, that tastes like vinegar, that's disgusting, I'll stick to Carlin, because it's done badly. You can't measure it against that, if you know what I mean. But people will. The everyman, the person that might end up drinking an ale one day, will just base it on the facts of, I tried that once and it's fucking disgusting, I'm not going to do it again.
And it happens all the time.
These bad pubs do cask a disservice, which is why I think it needs to be more of a specialist thing.
Yeah, it's just a real shame. It's slipped out of the norm for publicans to be able to keep and serve quality cask, because it's the backbone of British pub culture. As you said, the McPub thing is Starbucking, man. Has took over. But anyway, we can moan about that all day.
Fuck yeah! Let's let us know how you'd want us to approach that subject. Let's steer it back onto Putty, because we did have some notes.
While you're doing that, I'm just going to try and read through this stuff. Currently on a train drinking Lost and Grounded. Oh, Black Log, yeah, know it. And got a can of Siren Liquid Mistress next. Go on, Dominic. Train beers are the best beers, man.
They are, man.
Thanks, Rasco. We got your link. More shout outs for Red Willow. Fantastic.
Cask
no
mark, yeah, exactly. Does it?
Cask thumbs up. I agree. Some establishments have cask mark, but it doesn't mean anything. Cask mark, does it? It just doesn't. I see it everywhere as well. In
Well, it's like you go and walk into a
Green
place.
King pubs.
You go and walk into a place. It's like we're cask mark certified. Scan us and checking your beer on the cask mark app. It's like,
it's just another marketing thing that has actually forgotten what it's meant to be for.
Yeah.
Postman vaulting, but you mean post office vault? Yeah. The world's sweatiest pub. Yeah. Don't go. It's great, but don't go in summer. Fucking hell, that place stinks. It's a good place for. Well, it used to be good for Belgian beer. I've not been in there for a long time, to be honest with you. So
no, yeah. So from the notes that were going off here, let's bring it back round to just Putty after our little cask detour. The next thing we're going to talk about is big hype beer, massive hype beer, probably the biggest, hypiest beer that you could ever get
in
this country,
the UK, in the modern crossing.
How good are these beers for the scene and the industry as a whole?
Good question.
And the ecosystem, because obviously you that used to be in. Well, tell us about release for you last year, because I think
regardless of any other hype beers, let's focus on Putty. So it is a hype beer. It's an event. We're doing a whole video around it. We had a bottle shop and a tap room called Hall Beer, for people who don't know. So Hall was a little place in Stourbridge, in our hometown. And we, like many other places, really struggled in January. So January trade just drops off, man. Sometimes it's not even worth opening. Less so this year, I think. I think the pubs and the bars have been a little bit busy, which is heartening to see. But yeah, the whole dry January thing and people just, chilling out after Christmas meant trade just plummeted, man. And it's really disheartening when you're a small business and no one's coming through the door. Putty, not to put too fine a point on it, is a massive shot in the arm for small business. Now, that comes with a bit of baggage, let's be honest, because although it generates business and interest to get people back into your bar or your tap room or your bottle shop or whatever it is, it also comes with the massive caveat that it's not a cheap beer. It's very expensive, and perhaps people aren't ready to be spending that kind of money, at this time in January after an expensive month or two. So I think from a retail point of view, I can't fault the intent. Now, it might be cynical from a Verdant perspective, because they might have identified the fact that, and I know historically they've always released at this time, but it feels
because they first started releasing it in May.
They're right. You're right.
Hop City's in May.
Yes, it was Hop City, wasn't it? So the secondary release became in January. So there might be a tad bit of cynicism around why it was released there, but the attraction into your business it can't be denied, right? And and that's to be applauded. And to be honest with you, it got us through some really hard times in the shop. So, from an anecdotal and personal point of view, I've got a fondness for the Putty release.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys haven't listened to the Fancy Beer Name podcast that we do, the episode, was it YouTube Dude Face? But it's also called it's got like Rise and Fall of a Bottle Shop. But if you haven't heard that one, Paul goes into like a good hour or so about his two iterations of the bottle shop that kind of came and went, and the trials and tribulations that came with it. So if you guys are interested in hearing more about that, definitely check that out. That's just another plug.
It's not as depressing as it sounds, actually.
No, it's quite interesting, especially because I think in that, like I said, for me, one of the things that I always thought really was the coolest thing ever would be that I'd have a bottle shop. That would be really cool. Surely that's like the dream job.
Yeah, that's why we did it as well.
Yeah, but then actually you realise, oh fuck, it's actually really fucking difficult, and there's no room for error, and there's really fine margins.
I think it would have been better if it wasn't at that specific time in the worst possible scenarios that could ever influence a small business, but that's just the hand we were dealt at the time. Yeah.
Aye, we've got a founder as one of the founders of
Hop
Hop
Zine.
City. It was first released in April, but it soon moved to January. So that's Hop Zine. Really enjoy the stuff that you do, guys. Thanks, thanks for dropping us a message. So these guys reached out to us after a craft beer channel,
Yes.
live show. So that was really cool. But yes, so I think the hype. I mean, for me, the hype beers are great, and I think what we've seen more of this year, especially, is more breweries now that are releasing January beers. Now, I think there's obviously going to be a thing there where January is notoriously. It's the reason why Verdant probably did it, and it's a notoriously quiet time. You need to kind of do something to drum the hype. And I think what people have realised is that obviously Putty is a big thing in mid-January. So let's kind of ride on the coattails of that. But obviously Putty's been going around for long enough now that it's got, in a way, it's got its detractors, hasn't it? Let's be fair.
Yeah.
And there are some people that even commented on our link and stuff when we said that we're doing one as like a Putty drink along. They were like, I'll check out your drink along, but I'm really not a fan of Putty, so I'll be avoiding it at all costs. And that's an opinion that we've got to respect. So I think what's happened is other breweries have seen that's a kind of growing tide. There are people in the scene now that say
it's the nature
it's Putty
of the
again.
industry,
Everyone's going to talk about Putty for a week. Everyone, if you're not into it, just put your phone on silent for a while. So I think other breweries are now thinking we can provide an alternative. What we can do is we can release our beer in and around the weeks of January.
Yeah.
So the people that aren't spending their hard-earned dosh on the biggest dipper of...
There's a ready audience, potentially.
Yeah. There's other beers there in an option. So obviously Yonder did their mystery beer series.
Yeah, that came out of nowhere. Yeah.
I think they did do it last year in January.
I did not see it last year.
Yeah,
but this year came out, like, literally was everywhere all of a sudden.
So it just literally popped up.
They've invested in it.
What else have we had? I think Track have done a big release.
Yeah, but I'm not sure it was. Maybe it was. It was a big dipper for January, but I don't think they just stopped releasing dippers all year round though.
They never do.
I don't think it was perhaps on the coattails, but it felt like the Yonder thing was trying to set up an event in January.
I actually think that's good. Remember last year when we went to the Hop Vault for Putty release day, and that coincided with, was it the Polly's birthday thing? Because they had their Polly's Quipper.
Yeah, oh god.
And it was one of only 12 kegs that was available, and Hop Vault got one of those 12. And that was pouring at the same time as Putty. It was.
You say it was pouring. It was coming out like treacle.
And what also sticks with me, actually, and this is also perhaps going down a bit more of a depressing turn, is the night that we were shooting Putty's drink along thing last year. As we were setting up the camera, you said, "Oh fuck, Dig Brew are gone," and it was literally that. It was the night that we were doing that. Dig Brew, big Birmingham craft brewery, really. I mean, they were the most exciting. I mean, and we say this with love to all our.
I think
breweries.
Big might not. They had a reputation that was bigger than the brewery themselves.
Yeah,
and they were exciting in a punk rock, burn bright, burn hard, burn fast kind of way.
Yeah, they were the avant-garde kind of.
Yeah, they were the Sid Vicious of the beer world, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, since then dropped off. I mean, obviously they've gone, but I've not heard from Ollie since. Don't know where he is. Hope he's well. But that was a great shame.
If you can't see Ollie, he can see you.
Yeah. Oh God, that sounds ominous.
Yeah, well, don't know what I meant by that.
That's checking on the comments. So Bramall, I agree. Some establishments have cask mark, but does that mean it? Oh no, sorry, we've just been done that one. Sorry. Troubles. There we go.
Yeah,
sorry, that was the one I was meant to be looking at.
We like a bit of Troubles.
See, this is the thing, right? So we're going to be talking about big hype releases.
Yes.
Now, Troubles, I love Troubles, and I think it's actually a beer that does rival this very nectar that we're drinking now. I think it's great. But what really always, every single year, just sends me off is the weird staggered release
They
window and
really
stuff.
mess that up.
It's like,
I don't get it.
is it
Don't get
5 beers? Is it 6 beers? Just release them, man. Just release them in a pack and send them to me. Send them with a glass or whatever. I'm all for it. But it was like when, I think you had it when, that year when you were at Hall in Stourbridge, and I was asking you for a Chubbles thing, and you were like, because
Which one?
And bottle shops as well are already kind of a week later than the normal release.
The brewery, but then you got the Vale side of thing as well, and it was just really complicated. No one knew what they were getting, when they were getting it.
Didn't help that all the cans kind of looked the same as well.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and that kind of when we were working in the shop, and that year, it kind of tainted the whole beer experience for me for Chubbles. I just didn't enjoy it. I felt stress every time I drank it. But with Chubbles, last year's one, I kind of disregarded it for that very reason, actually. But then I caught their Chubbles Dipper. God knows what it was called. I get lost with all the Chubbles names and conventions But the last one they did, and oh my God, if that wasn't one of the best.
John
beers,
Taylor will know.
John
if you're still watching.
That was one of the best beers I had, probably the first half of that year, if not the whole year, actually.
Chubbles Enhanced is always the best one for me.
It was Enhanced.
I don't know which one that is.
Rehanced and whatever it was,
Enhanced. Yeah.
Anyway,
it was Enhanced.
It was fucking spectacular. So
but you get that with the Chubbles thing. Now, I did a drink along at Hot Vault with Dave Hopkins, the famous barman.
Yep.
The famous barman. David Hopkins, beer slinger. Say that in like Anthony Hopkins, Witchfinder. Anthony Hopkins.
It's Matthew
Hopkins,
Witchfinder, as played by Vincent Price.
Yes, that's the one. That's what I was thinking. Anyway, yeah. So he went over, or someone went over to the States. I can't remember who, but they brought back some of the Vale Chubbles. Yeah. And we then did a session in the Hot Vault, which was, there's 6 of us, I think, and we all just basically went through all 5 of the Chubbles beers.
No one knows.
Yeah.
No one knows how many there are.
And we did that. But then the palate cleansers for that, because they were all like tippers and whatnot, the palate cleansers were, that Trickett brought, were all like big, impy stouts. It's like, why are we drinking like 12, 13% palate cleansers in between tippers? So that was a bad idea from the off. But like,
see you later next day.
The session was there for about 3 hours or something. It wouldn't even have been that long. And then at the end of that, it was like should we go and get a pint of Bathams before we go home? So I was like, yeah, I'll go home, have a pint. I'll go home, have a pint. Go to the pub. Went and did that. And then I remember probably getting into the house at 7. I probably had dinner. But then I remember waking up on the sofa at 3 o'clock in the morning. The lights were all on, obviously still in my clothes. TV was just facing me like Netflix. Are you still watching this? And I just remember I was obviously waking up because I was going to be sick.
Oh, nice.
So I went and walked into my kitchen, my brand new kitchen at the time, and fell short of the kitchen, or I fell short of the sink, and I projectile vomited across the kitchen. To this day, I won't blame Chubbles or the Imperial Stouts. It's that one pint of Bathams. I think that's what it was. It was that one pint of Bathams bitter, because for those of you who've had the pleasure of drinking a Bathams bitter, we're never really sure if it really is 4-point-something%. It's around there.
Rumours are it can float up to 6.
Yeah,
depending on the day and the wind. Yeah,
that's another brewery that I'd love to kind of get in this year, especially maybe for like Black Country Day.
I'd love to do a Black Country beer too and go through all the traditional breweries. So I don't know if you guys outside of the region, in fact, definitely won't know it in America, I don't think, but we have Sarah Hughes, Bathams, obviously. We've got Holden's, we've got Founds, although Founds are now defunct, but they're still doing stuff. Who else? Oh my God. Oh, that's probably all that's left. Enville, but
Kimber, I don't know.
No, Enville are fine. But yeah, they're one of those beers I point at and go, nah.
Envatch is one that sometimes like because it's a good pint if you can get the right one of it. It's always
It doesn't
been,
smell like hell.
it's always been very
Sulfur heavy.
Yeah, I was going to say it's always been very temperamental. Sometimes you might have one and it just smells like egg. I don't know how does that happen. The brewers in the chat, maybe let us know, how does that cask beer end up smelling like egg, and why does sometimes it doesn't?
It's a really
is that a serving thing?
It's a
or is that
really weird thing, Enville, because Enville almost it's 50-50. When you pour an Enville, you just get an overwhelming ripe smell of sulfur. It's a weird thing, and people seem to love it. Which is odd because who wants egg in their beer? What are we looking at?
So we're going. Bramall says, wondering if Sure Shot will release Dilson, dipper version of Milson. Was it their first birthday last year? Wouldn't it be the second this year? I think they released Dilson for the first last year.
Yeah, I think they're older than one.
Well, they will be older than one.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Hopefully they do, because Milson is a great beer, and that's going to feature in our next core beer showdown video that we're going to do.
Yeah,
because
we couldn't get any, could we?
There was a really good one with that where there wasn't really any well, not that I could taste. It was really hard to tell the difference between Steady Rolling Man by Daya and Milson from Sure Shot. It was really crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'd be interesting. Matt, shame about Dig. Ordered off them a couple of times. Good beers. Yeah, I mean, I always think that what Dig Brew did, they always went with the experimentation angle. They
were fearless in that regard. So
yeah.
I really enjoyed.
And I'm not going to say that they got it right all the time, because I think some of the California sours didn't quite hit the mark.
No.
But I think in terms of the vision that Ollie had for that was awesome, and it really is a shame that
they always felt more of an art project than a brewery.
Yeah, they were like the rebellious art students, weren't they?
And they succeeded a lot of the time.
Yeah. Bram was just clarifying there. Dilson did release for the first brewery. Yeah. So are they going to do it again? Hope so, because that'd be awesome. What else did we have on our little agenda here, Paul?
Well,
I mean, other hype releases.
Yeah. So we've mentioned Yonder. That's a good show.
Yeah.
We're going to ask the question. Hype releases that we're potentially missing. So I think we got a few down. And we kind of drew a blank. So we got Troubles.
We did Stoutzilla last year.
Stoutzilla,
that's one of our favourite stouts.
Becoming a hype beer by every metric I can possibly see. And I think that beer is getting stronger and stronger every year as well. God damn, that barrel version was incredible.
That's the 7-year-old bottled version, the original one.
So if anyone didn't see that, we went down to Lombard for the Stoutzilla launch November last year, and we were really fortunate enough to be given a bottle from the first batch of Stoutzilla that he'd ever brewed back in his shed back in, I think it was 2015, something like that. Right?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
But God, yeah, it was an age ago. And we opened it, and he knew damn well this was not going to stand up to the modern Stoutzilla because he'd learned so much. And we tried it, and it was bloody good. It wasn't the same beer.
Wasn't the same beer. No, it had turned into.
But it was a home brew.
Yeah, it had turned into more like a Belgian double.
Yeah, it turned quite noobly in its character. But my God, I think if you're a home brewer and then you knocked this out in your shed and then a few years later revisited,
you'd be pretty happy with that.
You'd be fucking happy with that. Yeah, I thought it was sensational.
It was really good.
Yeah. And it was a real privilege as well, because it was holding those bottles back for his 18th birthday of his newly born son,
Jago.
So he said, "Oh, you know what? I've got a bunch of them. One of them can come out now." So yeah, we were the only people at that point who've tried that, and yeah, I was really privileged. That was lovely.
That was lovely.
Yeah.
To round off the Putty Chat, because we're hurtling towards 9 o'clock. We
were
worried. We were worried that we weren't going to be able to fill the time. So, has anyone visited their bottle shop today? Checked out the release of that? Have they had it on tap? What did they think? The other thing I was going to talk about just before we wrapped up, because we did talk about talking about cost. We talked about talking about cost. I thought that this year, specifically from a bottle shop, an independent retailer, would be the first like £10 dipper that's from the UK, if you know what I mean. Because I mean, I'm sure, depending on how expensive your bottle shop is, there might already have been £10 dippers from England, but I doubt it. I think generally tippers always sit above 10 or there or thereabouts. But Putty this year, Hop Vault, our local retailer, they've got it on for £9.95. And I know for a fact they're also not going to be making... They'll be lucky to be making £1 off each can.
They've reduced their margin phenomenally on that one.
I think realistically, they should have probably gone above 10, but they're also thinking optics-wise for the man walking into the pub, into the bottle shop, looking at it on the shelves, 8% dipper.
No.
And I applaud that to some degree, because it's taking a hit, isn't it? It's taking a hit.
It's taking a hit, but how much of a hit is a hit until it becomes worth it?
True.
And you know, and again, we can only say this from a this is a lie. I can do it from a retailer point of view, and I can do it from a consumer point of view. But we struggled, and I look over there because Hannah's over there, who was the manager of our shop for years, and we really struggled when you can't put your usual markup on stuff, and you have to bring it down because you have to sell it. And you know that every man is going to come in and look at it and go, "Is this a joke?" But what you'd hope is, the people who know what it is will come and buy it. But at the end of the day, it's an 8% dipper. So I do struggle now. And I think we're encroaching the £10 mark. It's
absolutely, and I think the markup as well in terms of the what the bottle shop of the brewery was selling it at. So Verdant last year, I think when we bought it last year in a 6-pack, it worked out to, because you can only buy them in 6 or 12s. It worked out to, I think it's £6.42 or £6.66. It was something like that when it was broken out. In my head, it's maybe £6.66, but I could have Tartarus on the brain and be thinking about 666. But this year, it had gone up slightly, and it was on £7 a can if you break it down in the 6-pack. So it was like £7. So to then see that it's in the bottle shops for, 9, nearly £10, I don't think that's not too bad considering that the brewery sold out in 10 minutes. And also you've got to factor in the fact that wholesalers have probably taken a slice in there as well.
Yeah.
So,
but again, is it worth it?
See you, Rasco. Thanks for joining us tonight, dude.
Cheers, bud.
Yeah. Sorry, I was.
You got to ask yourself, is it worth it? At the end of the day, it's an 8% dipper.
As Bramwell said, as you mentioned, Putty is great for pulling in the customers. My bottle shop says it will be available from 22nd, and he said, by the way, we will also get the Polly birthday beers in. Awesome.
We were talking about the Polly stuff, and we were discussing about which height beers are still prevalent. And then you mentioned Polly's, and we went, "Oh, have they actually done it recently?"
They've done a pack this year.
They've done a pack this year, but last year seemed to like
collaborations. I think
it was a bit. It didn't seem to have the hit it usually does. So yeah, looking forward to this year for sure. But yeah, what other height beers can you think of?
Well, Rasco before he left said Maiden by Siren. I'm not sure what Maiden is. That a barley one?
For
some reason, I'm thinking a barley one.
And this is just my biases now. Siren always passes me by. I always put those in the higher. Choose my words right. The echelon of breweries, which I think of Thornbridge, Siren, dare I say Tiny Rebel, but there might be one above. Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of big production brewery. I'm probably wrong in the Siren aspect, but I think it's just my own biases doing this, and I always pass them by a little bit, to be honest. But yeah, Mainland's probably a really good show.
James Nicol. Last year, the local shop had in brackets "sorry" next to the price. I mean, that just says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
Gareth P. So much involved in distribution, transport costs, bottle shop overheads in the current climate. It's understandable. Absolutely. And I think
get it.
That's the thing. And I think it helps in the sense that Putty sells out like it does on the bottle shop, on the web store, the only place that you can really get it outside of, your independent retailers. I mean, obviously, your Rad Beers and your Trembling Madnesses are going to be selling it for much lower than a high street bottle shop. But this is why, in my opinion, your opinion, I'm speaking for you because I know you'll agree. You should be getting out to if you've got an independent bottle shop and you love beer and you get on with the people that run that bottle shop, you should go there and you should buy some cans. You don't have to buy everything from them, but by all means, just go there and support them because they're
and ultimately that's the thing. If we're going to
up against
this industry continue, it's an ecosystem. Money's tough. We all know that cost of living is kicking our asses. So this is the only reason I'm cynical about this kind of thing at this stage in the history of where we are. But at the same time, if you can afford it, please support your local.
Short and stout beer reviews. Good day, lads. Hey man, how you doing? So we're just entering dark beer territory now. So if we
it's pudding time.
We're going for dessert. So it's we're going for a Pohjala cellar series on this one.
Yep. So while Hannah chops away at these wax tops, which are basically impossible to get off, as we know, we're about to move on from Putty Land into something a little bit bigger. So Pohjala cellar series. So by pure coincidence, me and Chris both got a bottle of this, didn't we, over Christmas, and we are going to drink both of them. So this is a
Imperial Porter.
It's an Imperial Porter, which is an interesting concept. But it's cognac, sherry, and oily whiskey. Be a Imperial Porter. So
11%.
Wow, this is going to be boozy as.
And I'm still not. I'm not necessarily guaranteeing that I won't go back to Putty after this. How does that sit on a dark beer? I'm not sure.
Porter before what? No, it's not wrong. There's no rhyme for it.
Porter before Dipper, you'll be.
Do you remember not 10 minutes ago when you told that story about waking up and throwing up everywhere?
Yeah, this is why I get into those situations. Yeah. But to be fair, I've got a very good tolerance in terms of the chunder.
Chunder tolerance.
I very rarely throw up. If I do, I've done something wrong.
Yeah. So we're now going into post Putty territory.
Short and stout. Plenty of familiar names in the chat. Rad community boys. Awesome. I mean, that's great to see.
Yeah, good.
So let's. Yeah, I mean, if we can have other people joining us from other beer communities that are on YouTube, yeah, come and join us. If you'd like these to be more of a thing, just let us know because this is the first one that we've done, and it's actually been really easy. It's nice to actually get some content out that as soon as we press end stream on this, it'll be like a video ready to go.
You guys have been awesome, man. Thanks for listening. Not to say this is the end, by the way. We're going to carry on for another half an hour.
Yeah, we'll carry on for at least 27 minutes.
We're now talking the shit territory, so it'd be good to hear actually what you guys want to discuss.
Yeah, so if you have anything you want to talk about,
I've got something to trigger this off.
Go on.
So breweries who need to be promoted more, who you think are fucking brilliant, and you want to tell everyone about.
I know
the reason I said
I know who you're going to say. I was going to say you're going to say Smod.
So the reason I'm saying this is because Hannah's just passed us a glass here. So St. Mars of the Desert. If you don't know them, they're a brewery up in Sheffield, and they're run by an American guy and his English wife. And what's his name, Hannah? I always forget his name. Dan. God, Dan and Martha. There you go. This is the reason.
Ironically, Martha sounds more American than Dan.
Is that irony? Or just
well, I think that's irony.
Inconvenient to you. So
you missed Putty. I mean, grab a can anyway, man.
Yeah, man, do it.
I'll join you on it.
Chris is on Putty round 2 at the moment.
Yeah.
but St Martha's Desert. So Dan, who now runs Putty, had he was the owner of a New York brewery, and I always forget the name of it.
Don't ask me. I don't know.
And it's Pretty Little Things brewery, and they got really big. And he burnt out, sold his stake, made a considerable amount of money, and then decided he wanted to go back to grassroots and do proper craft brewing.
Move to Sheffield.
well, here's the funny story.
Okay.
So he went all around Europe. In his head, Europe was going to be the place he had to lay his hat if he was going to, get back down to it. And he went around France, he went around Belgium, around Germany, all this money he'd earned just allowed him the freedom to explore and find out where he was going to lay. He'd bought a plot of land in France, and he thought modern French brewing is where it's at. Don't know where he got that from, but he was definitely going to do it.
What?
Yeah, exactly.
That's not a country known for its beer.
Exactly. Well, as now proven, right? So he was clearly wrong. And then by pure fluke, he ended up coming to Sheffield for a conference or something.
I can see that happening.
And he bought a little unit, a trading estate just outside of Sheffield. And he's now brewing Belgium-inspired modern craft. And it is fucking sensational. I cannot...
He's got a cool ship as well, hasn't he?
He's got a cool... He's got the proper cool ship. It's a small cool ship in the grand scheme of things, but they're a small brewery. And the passion and the knowledge of this man is just phenomenal. And every year they do Smodfest.
We should go.
It's a huge homage to obviously Oktoberfest, but their German-inspired Sheffield lagers are the reason I think I'm in love with craft brewing in general, because it's got its own spin on it. It feels authentic, but at the same time new, exciting.
That's cool.
Can't rate them enough. So yeah, St. Mars of the Desert. Check them out.
And this is from Pohjala, who are Estonian. Estonian?
They're Polish, aren't they?
No, I'm pretty sure they're Estonian.
You're Estonian. Where are Pohjala from?
And Short and Stout said he's in Melbourne.
Oh, it's Estonia, you're right. Sorry, mate.
So,
there'd
be no Putty for him anyway, not for a couple of months. To be fair, man, with how green it is, that might be fine.
Yeah, you might get it at the right time.
You might get it at the right time. Yeah. What are you drinking down in Melbourne? Melbourne. I've seen your videos and now loving the first live. I may have missed it whilst, but what brought me to your channel altogether is seeing you guys together. Oh, thanks, man.
Thanks, man.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers. You. Well, we're into a dessert beer at this stage, so welcome to the decline of our faculties. But
yeah, we've got 18 minutes to see it all go wrong. The good thing is this video should, all being well, just end up being a normal video that you can watch back. So you can check us out on catch up.
Yeah.
Who
wouldn't want to watch this over and over again?
Yeah.
But this is
bourbon,
11%.
Islay, and what was it? Sherry.
Yeah. So if you missed it, cognac, sherry, and Islay whiskey.
Oh no, not bourbon, cognac.
Yeah. But it's 11%, and it's booty. Let's put it that way. But
I can taste the sherry more than I can smell it. I can't really get much of the whiskey, to be fair.
I can get big whiskey taste there.
I had
fucking brilliant.
I had an insane imperial smoked porter from Chapter Brewing, I think it was. Double Dead Man.
Another slept-on brewery.
And that was that was another. I'm pretty sure that was Islay whiskey barrel aged.
Yeah,
but fuck me, that was an experience.
Oh.
Like, it was a great beer, but I was drinking it and I was like, man, all I can smell is whiskey as I'm drinking it, and then I'm getting like whiskey laced porter. It was great and smoky as well, like really smoky.
Yeah. Pohjala really, really good. I mean, they've got a good foothold over in the UK at the moment, I think. But they're knocking this barrel aged stuff out of the park.
And also filling the wax sealed bottles gap, which Dig Brew left.
Oh God, wax sealed bottles.
The
Man.
wax sealed.
Do you guys ever fucking struggle with this as much as every other person on the planet do? Because there's a technique to it. I get it, but Jesus, wax sealed fucking tops.
So Short and Stout said, I've got 2 Pohjalas in the fridge, French toast banger
Nice.
and mug cake banger. Not sure what I'm drinking today. I do feel like a stout. It's only 8 a.m. So just getting
Get on it.
Breakfast stout.
Yes.
Awesome. No, that's great, man. Thanks for joining us so early in the morning, your end.
We're just asking the question before I went on a diatribe about St. Mars the Desert. Which breweries are we sleeping on at the moment? Recommend some to us.
So at the moment, just so you're aware of kind of what's in what's on our radar, what's in our pipeline, we're in conversations with Mashgang. We're just trying to get a date down for that. We've got a date locked in for Daya, so we're really excited about that one. Missing Link we're just waiting to finalise a date on Missing Link. There's someone else, and then obviously we've got the Birmingham breweries.
We've got Rivington.
Rivington as well.
Yeah.
And then we've also got Glasshouse, Attic, and
probably Birmingham.
We'll probably fit in Birmingham Brewing as well, as we maintain that little mile in Birmingham, or just outside Birmingham. That Sturchley Mile is absolutely fantastic, because you've not only have you got 3 breweries within a mile of each other on the same road, you've got like all the pubs in between as well, all the pubs and bars, and they're not all just pubs or bars. There's a cocktail bar in there, isn't there?
Yeah,
so you can mix it up. You could take your friends.
It's a good little gentrification area, Sturchley, for sure. But you got Glasshouse, Attic, and
Cork and Cage,
Birmingham. Yeah, Cork and Cage, Birmingham Brewery, but they represent. We were discussing this the other day, weren't we? They represent the sort of arc of modern craft beer, where you've got Birmingham Brewery, who are essentially, I don't want to say they're traditional, but they're very, the
trad dad.
They're trad dad beer with, fine. Attic is somewhere in the middle, and they're making a name for themselves, doing accessible pales and stouts that can land in pretty much any back street pub, hopefully, all being well. And also the tap room is pretty impressive to go and see. Big family friendly, loads of pizza, great tap range.
It's still very rustic as well. Like
it's still on an industrial estate, as we'd expect.
Next to a train station.
But then you got Glasshouse, who are completely opposite end of the spectrum, who, as we mentioned earlier, doing amazing things with modern hops, embracing cask beer as this almost like a new medium, and and really promoting that. But at the same time, doing all the big hits for people. So yeah, that'll be good.
So we've got a couple. So Rasco thought he'd left us. So glad that he didn't. And Spack and Hob Day. No, that's a great show, because I love London Black.
Yeah, went down there. Yeah, been to their tap room.
A trip to London, Gareth P. A trip to London for Colonel and Pressure Drop would be cool.
Now, don't talk to me about Colonel, son.
This is interesting, because at the moment, obviously, like I say, we're having conversations with Mashgang, because we're really excited to get them on, especially from like a future of craft beer thing, because I think what we're going to see is a lot more low-no beers and innovation going forward. And I think those guys are absolutely smashing it at the moment. So with them, though, they're a cuckoo brewery. They're a phantom, as they call it. They're phantom. They're everywhere and they're nowhere. So it's kind of like trying to nail down a place to meet them. And I think one of the contenders at the moment, because they're going to be down in London on a certain date, we're like, well, the most difficult thing for us, right, is just going somewhere to get a location to film, because we don't tend to just rock up and guerrilla film it, although we probably should do that a bit more. But yeah, so he said they're going to be down in London. So I'm thinking, in a way, if you guys, because obviously they're going to be very, very pally with some of the London breweries down there, maybe we just meet them down in Bermondsey.
Yeah.
And like this, if they could we could do 2 for 1.
Mm-hmm.
We could do a 2 for. We could get Mashgang, and then also maybe whether it's the Colonel or whatever else down there? Because I mean, we've got a lot of good breweries down on the Bermondsey Beer Mile.
Yeah, sure. Everyone's shouting about the Colonel, and man, you don't have to tell us about the Colonel. I mean, there was almost a running joke when I was owning Hall that I'd only serve Colonel if they'd let me. But I adore Colonel as a brewery. Adore them. Phantom's great shout. Yeah, Two Flints. Been drinking a lot of Two Flints over Christmas.
Ian, Leviathan, again, another local one to us, really.
Yeah.
They're only in Sutton Coldfield, just the other side of Birmingham. So they're posh Birmingham. So they're like Birmingham. That's
Four Oaks, Birmingham.
We're not Brummies.
Yeah, they definitely class themselves.
They don't sound like that.
Phantom
and Two Flints is a great show. Asvex,
East Tamworth, that's what they class themselves. Asvex, love, great.
See, now Asvex is interesting because I think that what they absolutely smash is they smash their big beers, their big imperial stouts. I can't remember the name of it now. They've just released the second version of it.
Yeah,
I can't remember the name of it.
We drank
it was so good.
Yeah.
But what Asvex do, which other breweries in the UK, and I'm kind of excluding Vault City from this because they exist on a completely separate plane in this style of beer.
Yeah.
But the American style smoothie sour, Asvex are absolutely smashing it with their Manor series. It's just ridiculous. It's silly. I've just had a box from Bruiser, the Mortalis box, and I'm a big fan. You hate it. You hate this style of beer. But
I don't want to say I hate it, but I'd be lying. It's not for me.
I love it. I mean, like, it was funny because I had one can that showed up in my Mortalis box that was like, maybe because it was coming from Brew Export. It was a Bruiser Brew Export partnership, and these 6 beers, obviously they've done a lot of mileage, and maybe they have been banged up a little bit. So when I opened my box up, and one of them, the end of it was literally
That's
domed.
what you said the other day, yeah.
And I was like, oh, fuck. Yeah. If there's one style of beer that you do not want to be looking like it's highly pressurized and distorting the can, it's a smoothie sour, because second fermentation, it's like it just explodes. So I was wondering, is this, as soon as I received the box, I whacked it in the fridge, and then I was thinking, okay, well, that's marked for death for tonight. I've got to drink.
like a Steven Seagal movie.
Yeah. I've got my ponytail out and everything. I tied it completely back, didn't do the top knot. Steven Seagal mode, went into the fridge, and I was like, this is it. I'm going to do it. Opened it over the sink. Is this a dent, or is this going to explode? Fortunately, it was a dent. And then I poured that beer out and took a sip, and I was like, this is fucking mental. Tasted like a pina colada. Went through to my wife, Kate. I was like, try this. And she's very used to me just sort of like whacking something in front of her, going, try this.
That's what she said.
Yeah.
Sorry,
yes. So then she tried it, and she just sort of pulled a face and went, why don't you just ask for a pina colada? And I kind of really, I do get that.
Gotta love Kate. I've spent years trying to work out why I hate smoothie sours, and she just nailed it in one sentence.
Yeah, it's just because like, why don't you just ask for a pina colada? It's the same, tastes exactly the same.
Well, you just shove your face in a fan because you get the same experience in terms of enjoyment. Yeah.
But yeah, it was just really funny. And another good smoothie sour story that I've got is when I ordered from Beer Bruvs. Do you remember when they were going?
Yeah.
So they did Peterborough based, again, probably 2021, just kind of through the later lockdown period. And I was ordering a lot of Bar Brew House from them because I found that was the style of beer, which was absolutely the smoothie sour. It was just singular. Nuts. You couldn't get it from anywhere in the UK.
We had some Bar, over Christmas. It was insane.
And obviously, this is what Asvex are currently doing really well with the Manor series. But I remember having this can, and I'd had a can of it before, so I knew that it was going to pour out pink, looking like a strawberry milkshake. So Kate was in the kitchen with me, and I just picked up this can, and I knew it was going to pour pink. And I just went, hey, Kate, watch this. And then I opened it, and the can exploded. And there was like beer just shooting off up to the ceiling. And then I poured it off into the can. I was like, fuck. And then she just looked at me and went, you're a real dick. And then just went off into the living room. She thought that the reason why I'd said
Nailed
watch
it, really.
this was because I wanted it to show me like
You're destroying your house.
Nigel Manseling my fucking can of
Not
smoothie.
Manseling. Oh no.
But it was like, I was like, no, I didn't do it because I was just going to be spraying it everywhere. It's because it pours pink. That was the thing that got it for me. But yeah, so
I can't believe you're married.
cool.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Wild Horse, absolutely fucking amazing. They're in my next bruiser box actually. So I've had a lot of their stuff. Love them. No tap room. I think they had a pop up over the Christmas period or just before Christmas, which I wanted to go to, but that's gone now. But yeah, Wild Horse are well regarded.
So Hopson's comment there. So Jack, the head brewer of Azvex, is that? Can we just clarify that? He used to be a head brewer. Or,
Used to be a beer tuber.
Used to be a beer tuber. That was what I meant to say.
Your amazing eyesight doing joining you in a smoky porter.
Go on,
This
man.
cider paradox, Bristol Beer Factory. Okay, yeah.
BBF, good brewery. I think are they? No, they're not.
Burnt Mill would be good. Don't think as well known. Yeah, I agree with that. I rate Burnt Mill and have done for a long time. They
do the Westy style really well as well.
Yeah, and I put them in the same category as the Colonel in the fact that they do really great versions of classic styles without buggering around with them too much. Yeah, they do the IPAs and the pales with different hops. We all know that, but they seem to nail those kind of really unusual styles sometimes, or they come up with some really sort of modern twists on stuff you don't get exposed to. So, yeah, I'm a big Burnt Mill fan, and yeah, they should be around more. They've got a really classic can design as well, Burnt Mill.
You know,
it's almost like you go, I've known these for years.
You know that wall of can art that we have behind us. That was a lockdown project. So a bit of backstory on that, really, because you must think, why is that there all the time? Well, one, when it's in my kitchen at home, it's covering up a plug socket which is like really high up on the wall,
and also really Nigel Mansell splats up there as well. Yeah. Mansellations. The
mansellations on the wall. But yeah, it's covering a plug socket. So that's the reason why it's always sat in the middle of us. And what that board is essentially just a load of can art that kind of, because I found, especially in my early days of craft beer in 2020, lockdown, really bored, had a big board that I had nothing to do with.
You're bored with the board.
I was bored with the board. And one of the things that made me fall in love with craft beer was just the can art and things as well. You know, the amount of thought and stuff that went into these things, and it felt criminal in a way to be at that time throwing away these cans. I was loving them. I loved the beer that was in it. Loved the art design. So I was like, why am I doing this? So I ended up making this little pastiche wall of can art, which is now pretty much what like bottle shops do, just as standard, don't they? It's like whack it all on there.
So ahead of the curve.
But yeah, and now I've started populating it with some new ones on there now. I've got some of the new and barred ones. They're dank juice and the danker juice.
You were saying very good things about the new and barred stuff the other night, weren't you?
The dank juice stuff is really nice. Yeah, I know that's a yearly thing that they've just started. Well,
another potential hype beer.
Yeah, I think, and to be fair, why not make it a hype beer? If they do it every year, why not? I don't think that hype beers harm the industry. I think they enhance it. Before I go into dank juice for the last 5 minutes, and to close off the putty thing, I think one of the things that always amuses me about when Putty Day rolls around, and you do get you get the detractors online and stuff, and it's like, you know, I'm sick of it. It's not even worth it. It's not even Verdant's best dipper, let alone the best dipper in the country and stuff. And it's like, yeah, that's fine. It's like, yeah, and it never lives up to the hype and the expectations. It's like, yeah, okay, that's fine. But it's like, nor does Christmas. Like, Christmas isn't always fucking great. Christmas never lives up to the expectation that you have in your mind for it. But do you opt out of Christmas? Do you just decide, I'm not going to celebrate this? I'm going to bury my head in the sand like a Jehovah's Witness and go, nope, no Christmas for me.
I'm loving this analogy.
You don't.
I'm loving this analogy.
Get on board with it.
But Chris, I've got to say this. There's been a running joke for the past year or so that you love Verdant so much that you're now saying that they're your version of Jesus Christ. And you're now saying Putty is equivalent to Christmas. Now, I think you've gone too far, Chris.
But have I in January? This is the thing. January shit. This is basically like the second coming of Christmas.
God, you've lost it.
It's the Putty Christ coming up.
This is when you walk off like the life of Brian, and you're just walking through the desert. Now you've got a can of putty, and you've been followed by thousands of people.
Yeah, but no, yeah. I mean, I think to close off like I said, to close off the discussion of it, because we need to come full circle. It's a fucking great beer. Is it the best dipper that Verdant have ever done?
No, I don't think it is.
Realistically not. But that's not to say that it can't be other people's opinion that it is the best.
It's becoming a thing now. If we can, from a commercial point of view and a consumer point of view and a retailer point of view, if we can rein in the growing prices, which are going to be problematic, there's no reason something like this couldn't be beneficial to, one, the retailer, two, the brewery, and three, a nice thing to have for a consumer if they can afford it. My concern is with growing prices.
Yeah. And with hype brings cost.
And with hype brings cost.
I mean, James Nicol makes a great point there, taking Alan over Putty. Now,
all day long. We
on that.
Yeah, all day
Alan
long.
is one of my favourites. Keep Left is my ultimate favourite. Keep Left for me. If they didn't brew it last year, absolute scoundrels. Hopefully they do this year.
Well, we've mentioned a bunch. Alan's
5 a.m. Gus,
40-watt moon, fruit car site exhibition. You know, Putty is not their best beer.
But I think when you look at it in terms of the big hype machine that is Verdant, and you need to look at the Putty release as what it was when it first started. The reason why it's got the hype that it has is because of what it did that first year in 2017. Yeah. You have to view it through the lens of what it did for the scene, in the same way that you'd look at what Sierra Nevada did for Sierra Nevada did for the scene over in America and wider. It's at the time it was absolutely fucking bashing it out left, right, center. It was probably the best dipper that you could get. But
all
now,
big things come from small. I mean, Oktoberfest was a wedding that just went wrong or right, depending on which way you look at it. All these things become something else. So this seems to be growing in this traction. And I think, as we've mentioned over the past couple of hours, other breweries are now trying to replicate this January resurgence of sales back into the industry, which is to be applauded.
Which is cool.
I think it's exciting.
Because I mean, what also we need to look at is January seems to be a lot of the time when breweries go to the wall, and we're kind of seeing that now with North Brewing in the UK. North of
shout out to
couple of days ago announced that they're appointing administrators. Now that doesn't necessarily spell the end for them, but what that does do is say that it doesn't look good, because if you think about it, they're after now investors to cover the costs and stuff of the business. But what an investor's going to do, if you've got the money, you're going to sit, unless you know a very nice philanthropist that you're pals with.
Everyone,
in which case,
you
probably wouldn't be in the position that North are in the first place. They're going to sit back and watch and wait until it does enter administration. Then they're going to swoop in at the last and then go, tell you what, I'll take the brand. And it's sad. It's not good. But I mean, this is where we are, and it always seems to be. From a business point of view, is January just maybe a time that what is it? Is it the fact that some of these breweries are literally 1 month away, one bad overpayment away from cease to exist?
We're all chasing the same thing just to keep ahead of ourselves, and breweries are not going to be any different. So I applaud Verdant with a little bit of marketing spin, maybe a little bit of cynicism, but what they've done is got ahead of the January blues from a retail perspective, and they're helping. So in that regard, I applaud them. I think the beer is really good. I don't think it's great anymore, but I think it's well worth drinking every year. If Putty becomes a thing to promote independent bottle shops, I'm all fucking for it all day long.
Yeah. Hopzine just said post-lockdown, North expanded too much and have never found that market.
Now, Hopzine, you might know more than me or Chris, but I was under the impression that the bars were a different business setup, and ultimately, yeah, that might be just an accounting thing, and it all ties back to the same people. But yeah, we've sat in a couple of North bars now, haven't we? And talk about star booking earlier. Fuck me,
They've got a very familiar feel. I mean,
Jesus
they opened up
Christ.
in Birmingham year before last now, end of 2022, wasn't it? In December. And what really caught me was like when I went in there, and then I went to Leeds when we went to Northern Monk, and I went into one of the North Brewing up there. It was the same place. It felt like I'd walked into the same place.
It was comically shit, was it? Because Birmingham, as you said, and we stopped somewhere and we've been to another North bar, and we went, we've been here before.
Yeah, I mean,
it was identical.
The beer was still good. There's a good selection of beer, but it has that coffee shop kind of vibe, and specifically the one in Birmingham is very much. It's underneath it's in
the financial quarter of Birmingham.
Yeah, and also the police headquarters.
Ex-police headquarters.
I'm pretty sure they're all still there.
Are they?
Yeah.
They're hiding it well then.
Yeah, they're at like a Snow Hill. Yeah. So you've got like the West Mids Police are based there, and you've got all the yuppies and stuff. And I just remember looking at it when I walked in, and it said like, we're open from 9 o'clock serving coffee, but you can't have beer. And I'm kind of thinking, what are you? You're supposed to be like a brewery tap room sort of thing outpost.
Yeah. So brewery and bars are separate business, but yeah, North did seem to expand incredibly quickly. I was under the impression that the bar side of things was going to cripple them massively, but if they're separate businesses, as we've now found out, that's a different thing. But it's just interesting it's happening at the same time. I mean, what's going to happen to those bars?
I imagine we're going to have to see what happens with North, but I mean, yeah, I don't know.
You'll be bought up by some non-entity
all bar
brewery.
one.
Yeah, and the Starbucksification we've mentioned all day will continue afoot, I should imagine.
Mersey Beer says it was the Italian. There's a heart there in place of that. I can't read the full word. Something that threw me. That's really annoying. There's a heart there in place of.
Oh yeah, so
that's really annoying.
Oh, there
you go. That threw me. All that just for the word that. It's the Italian location that threw me. Yeah, it's a shame, and I think it's not going to be the last brewery that we see go this year. And obviously there was a fair few that went to the wall last year. But I think my point was in the initial thing was obviously this time last year we were talking about Dig Brew as well as Putty because Dig Brew went pretty much at the same time. And I think there was also probably another brewery in around that same time. But it always seems to be that early part of the year, just after Christmas, there's that kind of moment where a lot of breweries end up saying, yeah, this is actually us. We're checking it. I mean, Alpha Delta did it December last year or end of November. They went, Alpha Delta were like, fuck, we're done.
Yeah.
So,
didn't they?
It's, which I found quite weird considering you're just going into Christmas, one of the biggest periods in your calendar. But what's this? Mersey beers.
We now get into the real nuts and bolts, I think, what a lot of people think, which is, consumerism over craft. So,
and what Mersey Beers just said there is actually really interesting. Selling to more than one supermarket, does that mean you sell more loss leaders than profit gainers? And that's totally right, because this is something I've been concerned about. And these breweries that are going into supermarkets, it's kind of gambling. It's dicing with the devil, isn't it? Because they're one dropped contract away from, they've banked everything to go into a supermarket.
Yeah.
And if that supermarket says, we're not taking up your new stuff now, we're taking on a new line of Madry or something, it's like, if you get dropped, what does that do to your brewing then? Is that potentially what happened with North? I don't know. We're just speculating there. We shouldn't speculate.
Yeah.
But
well, hang on. Everyone's starting to have a robust conversation. Should we give it 10 minutes?
Yeah, I think we've got time to Just one more beer.
One more
just
cheeky look.
one more. This is the equivalent of when I'm usually in the pub. I'm saying to my wife, "I'll be back at 9:30." It's never 9:30. So as long as you guys are happy to keep bringing it, we'll bring it. Mersey Beers, the Alpha Delta thing. I think that's more the owner than anything else. Okay, yeah, I mean possibly. Is it Rossi? Yeah, I mean I know that he did have. Well, I heard that there was some other stuff that was more health related rather than necessarily the business side of things. John Taylor went to Brum Tuesday. Colmore packed. 1,000 trades busy. Wolf busy. North not one person in there. Yeah, it's a good point. And I do think there's that element of the fact that where North is, for those that obviously don't know Birmingham, it's in the middle of. They've opened up outside one of the main train stations at Snow Hill in the kind of business district area. And it's just got a coffee vibe. It's a coffee shop vibe. And those are the places there that John mentions, 1,000 Trades, The Wolf. They're places that have got something about them. You know, they've got a real vibe to them. The Wolf is excellent. I really like The Wolf. And 1,000 Trades is also a nice one in the Jewellery Quarter. So Birmingham's very much a complicated scene, and no one will know it more than the man just walking into the little beer shed over there. But it's just a pity that the majority of the beer scene really with Birmingham actually now, since Dig Brew's gone, is based in Sturchley, which is a good either bus ride or train journey. You know, just slightly out. It's kind of a bit annoying really, because you should be wanting to go into the city centre, surely. But that's where we're at. With regards to where we're kind of going to go with the channel, like I said, I think we've talked about some of the breweries that we're going to do. If you guys could let us know what sort of content actually you enjoy. Aye, it's got some crossover coming. What sort of content you enjoy from us? Because obviously we're doing a spread at the moment. We do our brewery profiles, and we're trying to also do some of the more entertaining, what we see as entertaining, at the very least, informative content, and also some of the stuff in between. So if you guys just let us know, whether that's in the comments or you just send us a message privately, it's absolutely fine. Just to get a vibe for what everyone wants, because ultimately we'll do what we think you'll like, but also what really gets us going. And we're kind of always willing to lean into that, or swerve into the skid. Rasco's back here, and he's on his channel. Rasco Disco and Beer Review. Evening Beery Hype Trainers. Happy damn Friday night. Unsurprisingly, I'm not on the hype train. Cheers. Rasco, you've been here most of the night. But fair play. Thank you for joining. We'll definitely drop your channel a sub.
Sorry about that.
Now young Paul's back. We've got our nightcap. This is the one that we're going to be going to bed on. And what's going to happen after this beer is I'm going to bed with Paul and Hannah.
Yeah, drink more 11% stouts.
Yeah.
Sorry, Paul.
Has anyone been to Stourbridge? Not you, John. I know you have. We've got Bramall. I have to say this live has been excellent. So maybe one a month. Awesome. Yeah, totally. We can do that. Especially, I mean, Fridays actually, it was quite dicey with us planning this one, because if I go off the metrics of this, when our audience watches our videos, and Friday is not a good day for it generally. It's always used like a Monday or a Wednesday. Is when our big kind of uptake is all been when our views come in on the videos. But I don't know. Maybe there's a different.
Live's got to be a different.
Live's probably a different thing. Everyone's finished work. Everyone's just deciding let's go. Let's crack a beer and do it. So is Friday a good night for you guys? Because it is for us. It keeps us at the pub.
While we're talking about that, we're drinking here a crossover blend. We did a thing with crossover, and they're a wonderful blendery obviously chasing the Belgian lambic style, but doing their own thing. So this is a blendery, not a brewery. But this is a golden ale with plums. So this is one of their core blends. Get some of that down. Oh, are you still drinking?
I'm still drinking, but so got good live, guys. Greatly enjoyed the drink along. Should maybe be monthly or bi-monthly. I think should consider as it connects. Completely agree. I think that's been quite nice. Obviously, there's a community here that we've almost looked out on, because you guys obviously know each other in the comments and stuff, because you guys obviously go and look at other things, and obviously we go along to the craft beer channel ones as and when we can. A lot of time though we'll watch.
Should we talk a little bit about what we're doing in the new year as well? So we've mentioned a few breweries we're doing, and we're not going to give too much information away, but some of you might have seen. We blagged a little bit of time from Johnny and Brad from the Craft Beer channel. Best friends. So we did a little thing.
You make it seem like we hate each other. Best friends.
Best friends. Well, we exchanged texts and emails and all that kind of stuff, and they kindly did a lovely little bit of a spit for us on our videos. So we're doing something in the new year with them.
In the new year, we're in the new year. In the summer. The summer.
That's the email talking, and also that. In the summer, we're doing something with them. It's going to be really exciting. We don't want to give too much away because it's still in discussion.
If it comes off,
it's
fucking great.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I think it might be ambitious for everybody.
Yeah, it's ambitious. We've pitched the idea to Johnny, and he's given his feedback on it, but he's on board. If we can make it happen, it will be very fun. So
it'll be hard work as well. But
it'll be hard work.
It's going to be good,
but it'll be fun. So that's one for the summer, because at the moment, obviously, he's, as you might know, Johnny's got a book coming. So
he never mentions it. Though.
No, he never mentions it. No, but no,
we can say that.
All
friends.
All jokes aside, like, we've been absolutely loving the content that Craft Beer Channel in, and they're one just recently on going up to the North Pole.
The North Pole, that was nuts.
Svalbard. It's absolutely. And I'll put in the comment on that video, your family's not going to want to hear this, Johnny, but you need to go out and do more of this sort of stuff, because that was really where he was shining, just out there on the road. And these, it made me feel like I was watching the David Attenborough of beer.
Yeah. It's kind of where we want to be anyway. The kind of high production value. Doing stuff which is fun but informative. But you don't want to watch boring a bit like this, but just boring blokes just drinking beer. But
I think it's nice that we've got the conversation going.
This is a community thing for sure, and we're loving
it. Content, more red ales from Mersey Beers. Where are the red ales? Let's go and find them.
I've got 2 red ales over there actually.
Have you?
Yeah.
You poured them at the wrong time. James Nicol, your brewery showcase is a great props, a lot of work. They are, but it's what I started out the channel intending to do. It's what we kind of wanted to really get across. And funnily enough, when we did the Verdant stuff, Johnny reached out to us from Craft Beer Channel, and we asked for some sort of like tips from him, and he gave us his pointers. And he said, if you're going to do brewery showcases, have an angle. Don't just go from it like, hey, we're sitting with Verdant. Hey, we're doing this.
Yeah.
And in a way, I kind of dismissed that, because I was like, well, I like that. And I think as long as the breweries have got the draw and the attraction, then why not? People are going to sit down and watch them. But the more through my YouTube journey that I am now, and the more research that we kind of do, like looking at all these videos about, oh, you're doing this wrong, oh, algorithm, you do realize that his advice was actually more about getting that video out there. It wasn't that there isn't necessarily an audience for it. There is an audience. It's about finding the audience. So if you can make it a niche thing, like if the Verdant thing was just about like, here's why Putty is the best beer in the world or whatever, but it's actually just a bit about Putty, and then the rest of it is more about the Verdant brewery profile sort of thing, that probably would have flown even more than it did. So I think I know what he's saying. It's about kind of the way it lands with the algorithm and the way it can be marketed and picked up by strangers or people that. Because I think we have fallen foul of things which we actually think worked really well and actually really interesting. I think crossover is a really good one. And I know that obviously the mixed firm industry is a bit more niche. It's not as widely accessible to people. But I do think that the guys at Crossover, you know, when we sat down with George, they're doing some incredible stuff and they're making some incredible beer. And I think that that video didn't land or get as much coverage as I wanted it to. But I think that's just because of how I packaged it.
I don't think so. I mean, I think when you're looking at that kind of video about that subject matter, which is not the subject of the day, it's going to be a hard sell regardless. And I think that's what, if we're going to get any benefit from this this channel, or not benefit, that's the wrong word, if we're going to have any traction with this channel, or if we're going to feel like we're doing something well with this channel, it's going to be promoting that style of brewery or that artisanal craft. These people who kind of underrepresented and should be as representative of as your Verdant and people like that, you know. And you know, we got new man from Belgium on here, and I've lost where he is now.
He was on here.
He was on here.
He might be catch up.
You know, just you mentioned it earlier. We fell in love with Belgium.
Yeah, and
from their beer, the point of view, a long.
And in that sense, like George and the guys at Crossover, like kindred spirits, and that they did the same thing. It was like the
well,
lambic.
People don't know that, you know. People want to know about, you know, the cool kids on the block, you know, and completely valid, and we'll still do that. But hell, man, if we can talk about Crossover and their ilk, and you know, people who are, you know, promoting modern cask beer or old-fashioned production techniques. That's what we need to be doing, I think. You know, showcasing these guys. But you know, we know that isn't always going to float everyone's boat. But that's where the interest is for us, I think.
Everyone, Hopzine. I really enjoyed the What Happens Next video. Watched it a few times as someone who has worked a second job in beer retail over 8 years. It was thought provoking. So great. I mean, I'm not sure if you were joined at the time. Hopzine, but I did do a little spiel while Paul was taking a leak that was about like how that was a bit of an unexpected hit on the channel. So that's something we're kind of looking at writing we're writing a few thought pieces at the moment, which we're gonna hammer it.
We had a bit of a what's the word? We had a kind of creative geyser last night, didn't we? When we were thinking about things we could talk about, and it all came to a conclusion that we want to talk about roughly the same stuff, and I think that'll be really appealing. So
and I think at the moment those videos will probably be more focused in terms of it'll just be the one of us on camera, two camera, because I think that's the way it'll. I think that's the reason why it landed really well. It's one subject. We're good guys, but we can throw each other off at times and end up kind of going off at weird tangents. So, it's that focused content that was down to about 13 minutes. Bit of a thought-provoking piece. That's another thing that will definitely hit as well. Bramall, a themed live. It's always a great live. Absolutely, and this is maybe something we could talk about with Mark from the Hop Vault about maybe putting together a little box, which maybe we could send out to you guys. You know, like if you guys want to drink the same beers that we're drinking, and we'll just go along that same journey. I know a lot of the other channels do that, so we could definitely look at arranging a themed box or something.
We were talking as well about doing more conversational pieces with almost like craft adjacent people. So by pure fluke, we know a few folk who are, for example, not going to give any names away, but you know, who are up and coming rock stars who are fairly well known. People who are maybe in the food industry have got a good standing, who, you know, crossover with this world. there's quite a lot we can do, I think, and we've got quite a few people.
Something
and
about
ideas.
food pairings would be really cool.
Yeah, but we're throwing it around, aren't we? And there's things we want to do. We're just trying to find that right format, and we've got some ideas, but sometimes you think, is the live environment the best place to do it? Off the back of this, I think we have to rethink some of our ideas. Go, let's get them live, man. Let's get these
totally.
people on here. And,
no, for sure.
Yeah, because there's some really cool dudes, man.
It's the reason why we've started this as just us and the laptop and you guys, because so much of what we do already, we've already got this we've even overcomplicated it with the podcast in a way by filming it and adding the different elements in that need that extra bit of time to do it. Something like this, where we can just open the laptop up at an agreed time and go, yeah, let's just engage with people. Let's just talk to people. Let's have a beer with them. It's a time saver, and I think it's also worth its weight in gold, because at the moment, what we're doing, all our other focus is on these kind of higher production values. So, what? Here he is.
Thick sauce, chicken wings. Okay, well,
here's Mark. Here's Mark. We could do a drink along box. So, Mark Hot Vault, Mark is here.
Oh, lurking in the background, are we, Mark?
Absolutely.
Mosey B has said food pairings will be good. Thick sauce, chicken wings, and beer. So, okay, we've had an idea based around that, really, based on a very popular YouTube program.
Yes.
Yeah. Called
Cold Ones.
Yeah.
No, hot ones or cold ones.
We're going to do cold ones, yeah. So, yeah, we've got some thoughts around that, but that's a great show.
Mr. Flying Guy, just going up there. Great time listening this evening. You guys know your stuff. Yes, we all know Johnny and Brad, but you come at it from a different angle. And that's the thing. We've never purported to be experts at beer, and we're not experts at beer. I mean, you had a beer shop. I just like drinking the stuff. So, we're just enthusiasts of the stuff, and that's where we're happy to come at it, and also try and bring new people into the market and try and win people over with it. And Johnny and Brad are absolutely kings at just sort of like, nailing the more finer points, which I would feel incredible imposter syndrome trying to do myself.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
So James Nichol, with a small scene, it makes sense to have a positive spin, but it's worth seeking out the meta-analysis where everything isn't sunshine. Absolutely. I think that's why the video really floated, because we were able to kind of flag up some of the points where we weren't necessarily pissing anyone off in the process, but we're also pointing out that, man, this is a bubble and the bubble's going to burst, and we know it's going to burst, but when is it going to burst? And let's talk about what could happen and what we could do to either avoid it or whatever. Mark has just said, just got back from the Putty shop. How did it go, Mark? Let us know. We're just finishing off this crossover.
It's the plum
one. Yeah, let us know how it went. I mean, we're going to get Mark on again, I think, because he's always got hot takes, hot spicy takes. There's one that he did. Told me about one in the shop the other day where he said that cask should be aspirated cask. Asperger's cask. Or no, it's about putting air into it, which camera heavily looked down on. So it's essentially,
I mean,
our camera killing cask.
I think I can speak for a lot of people when I say fuck camera, to be honest with you, because they're so irrelevant to the modern scene. It's almost painful.
I was a member of camera until last year.
I said he went downhill last year when he left.
He did. No, the thing is,
I've always
27 quid a year, and
you get to be pretentious and look down on people.
No, but I didn't do anything with it. But I was happy to just give them a £27. I don't know.
27 quid for basically a pamphlet.
They don't even give you the Wetherspoons vouchers. I don't know. I think there's a lot of work for them to be done, and I think,
why is camera beyond its time? Who else we got here? With a small scene, it makes sense, but it's worth seeing. Meta-analysis where everything is in sunshine.
We kind of just covered this. Yeah, that's why
was that what you mentioned?
The thought-provoking piece probably landed quite well. So maybe Well, we will do more of those.
Yeah. I think it's, I think tonight we're trying. I don't want to burn any bridges because we think breweries are great, but sometimes it's not all, as you say, rainbows. You have to look at it and go, okay, what does this cost the consumer? What does it look like for retailers? What's the reality of this stuff? Because from a hype point of view, hype's great. That's why it's hype.
Yeah. I think going back to kind of what I was saying earlier about when some videos land and some videos miss, there's the danger of this Daya one, because we've got Daya lined up, and I think Daya are, in my head, I think that Daya are a popular brewery, and I think they'll be interesting for the channel. I think they're going to be really interesting for you guys to hear from. But at the same time, obviously, having just done that future craft beer piece, I've always got that in my mind that obviously Steady Rolling Man is the most popular beer in craft beer right now. And you're sort of thinking, like, is the scene shying away from it? And do they look at Daya as less cool now? And is that, is it that Daya don't have the same rapport with the industry as they used to? And would that still make good content? But by the same token, we've got it nailed in the diary. And I'm going to go, and I love Daya. So I'm going to go, and I know they've got a great tap room. So if anything, just for the walk around and the chat with Gareth, the head brewer, it's going to be a great conversation. And as one of the architects of Steady Rolling Man, which is, the biggest selling core beer, it's going to be great to hear from him. And I think that's going to bring some value to the channel anyway. So, yeah, I mean, but it's just, again, that falls into that category of how do you market the videos?
I just want to get past. It's a societal thing, and it's problematic within this industry. I just want to get past the fact that things are cool or not cool, or sold out or not sold out. I think sold out is clearly selling out to a big industry. A big business in this industry. That's what it is, right? You sell out to InBev, you've sold out. That's what it is. But just because you get popular, that does not make you a shitbag. It doesn't make you a terrible brewery. It just makes you a popular brewery. And just want to get past the fact that popularity is not the antithesis to good craft beer.
No, sure.
And there's got to be a balance there, because otherwise, everyone's doomed to fail. You'll never succeed.
Yeah,
what's the point?
What's
the point even trying? Then?
I'm not sure if there's any metalheads, but at that point, isn't craft beer just the black metal scene, where it's like you're not black metal enough because you're popular? But yeah, that's something that's perhaps a bit too niche. Mersey Beer's Daya's quality has definitely dropped in the last 2 years. Now, I mean, I can't personally say the quality has dropped, but what I can say is last year they were largely absent with regards to new beers.
Yeah,
I think I've always looked forward to the Saturated series, and I didn't see that knocking around in Hot Vault or anything. I kind of feel like, in fact, both Cloudwater and Daya have been very Luke podcast, the bosom of craft beer. Absolutely.
Hi, cheeky.
It's it's a weird one in the sense that I think both of those breweries have kind of been a bit quiet last year, and I don't know if that's because they know they've got bigger overheads to cover. They know they've got to just knuckle down and weather the storm, because last year was fucking miserable in terms of, your cost of living, sales, fucking inflation. Everything was going haywire last year. So maybe it was just sort of like, we need to just weather this, not do any stupid beers, not do anything ridiculous. Let's just get through it and then look at where we're at next year. That could be where it is.
Yeah. It's just an eternal challenge for me. I do think this industry is in danger of just eating itself. It's almost like you can't do right for doing wrong. You start up, you're doing your best just to get your beer out there. You get your beer out there, you're overexposed. And as soon as you're overexposed, your quality goes. As soon as your quality goes, you lose respect. And it's an eternal cycle. So there's got to be something, right? Or is it just the nature of everything? I don't know.
Yeah. But I mean, if you guys have any questions for like Daya that you'd like us to put forward, just let us know, because we're all about going there and just soaking up the sights. But then we're not there to we're not there to just sort of like fawn over them.
No.
I'm not saying we're going to give them hard talk.
No, and at the same time, we're not going to doorstep them like some kind of Channel 4.
No, it's because we've got massive respect for them. We love what they do. And, Dale were one of the breweries that got me into craft along with Verdant. So, like absolute respect. But, at the same time, you can't avoid the elephant in the room. In the same way with Northern Monk, it was the same thing. Like I had to say to them ahead of time, like, we are going to ask about supermarkets because it's a thing. And people are wondering if that's the right thing for the scene. We wouldn't be doing our job. Not that it's a job, but we wouldn't be doing our bit though if we weren't to say like, how does that work for you and why did you do it and all that. And ultimately, I think what we need to understand in the scene that just everything is business. As much as Verdant are my idols, they're business. And that's ultimately they'll no doubt. The longer a business goes on for, the chances of it selling out approaches one. It's just the law, isn't it? It's the way it goes.
It's the nature of everything. When there's a beloved community and there's passionate people behind it, like yourselves, at some point it's the passion has to stop because it becomes too mainstream. It becomes too saturated. It becomes too thinly spread. But it's a conversation, man. Let's keep it going.
It's definitely funny to talk about because there's the lack of innovation in craft beer at the moment. To be discussed, as well. Yeah. Obviously, there's a lot of smoothie sours, but
we need more. And on that, we've gone over by about half an hour, which has been brilliant. But
thank you very much for joining us tonight,
wish you
guys.
Good night. Yeah.
We're gonna depart. Thanks very much for joining us. We're going to do more of these. Let's say we'll do one next month. We'll get one in the diary, and
we'll get a subject going, and we'll try and get people buying the same beers. We'll do all that.
In fact, we'll speak with Mark, and we'll get a little box going, and you can buy that through Hot Vault, and I'll ship it out to you, and then you can join us on it.
Now ships to Melbourne.
You've given him the poison chalice there.
All right, guys. Love you. Thanks for that.
Thank you, guys.
Really enjoyed it.
This is the awkward part where I need to go, goodbye, good night.
Good night.
It's going to stop immediately and I'll no longer be live once I press the end thing. So good night, guys. Cheers.
You've still got that disease?
It's
yeah.